Talking to Billy
Oh, you
Big
got
Balls.
quiet now. Yeah.
I'm just waiting for
You're
my
in full
introduction.
flow then.
Yeah, I'm just waiting for my introduction. I'm just going to sit back and just listen.
Oh, there's about another 25 minutes, half an hour maybe before we actually introduce you properly.
Yeah, we don't.
I mean, that's why I got
yeah.
to put my name on, just so people know who I am.
Yeah, we don't stick to formalities here. We just waffle. That's
Yeah, we'll probably tell people who you are in a bit of time.
I was going to say, at the moment, we've only got 3 people watching at the moment anyway, so...
Well, us three.
We have at least got 1 like so far.
Ooh, well, that's good. That's always promising. Yeah, it's a bit quiet tonight. Yeah, I don't know if there's anything else on. It's anything good on TV tonight? Sunday? What's there? Any good programs starting on TV? That's the kind of thing to look out for.
So.
There's that HMS Vigil, isn't there? There's that kind of a line of duty in a submarine.
What?
That's starting tonight in the UK.
Line of duty in a submarine.
Yeah. Well, that's how my wife described it anyway, because she said she wanted to watch it at some point.
I have not watched normal telly in years.
YouTube's my fault.
Yeah. Well, it's not my thing now.
now.
It's like my little kind of routine. It's kind of like, if I sit down with a few beers on an evening, I always watch some YouTube videos beforehand. Oh, we've got a cat already. I always go. The thing is, there's so many makers. There's so many things to watch. You just get bamboozled with it all. Although I've been watching a lot of knife making recently.
Ah,
yeah.
You know a few knife makers?
We do.
We do. We've got a few in the lineup to drag on this podcast at some point as well.
I bought a knife from Jonathan years ago. A copper one. I think one of the first ones he was starting to make. He literally just posted it on his Etsy shop, I think it was, and I just snapped it up straight away. But I mean, he's come on leaps and bounds in the last few years. These knives now are remarkable.
Yeah, totally.
I was watching one today.
I'd love to know where he's buying them in from.
Well, I was watching Tyrell Knife Works, and he's doing Damascus, but with copper, like a thin layer of copper in the middle as well. So you get this kind of copper wave on the blade. Fantastic.
Johnny was actually in my kind of shout-outs for this week because of some of the stuff that he's been doing with like San Mai and stuff.
Yeah.
And these like really, really pretty waves of copper and nickel or things like that. They're absolutely beautiful.
Yeah, stunning.
He's got some really, really nice stuff at the minute that's it's going to some really cool people as well.
Even like the pins in the handle, like with his logo on and stuff, and he's now etching his signature. It's like, come on.
Yeah.
Come on.
They're nice.
Yeah, I mean, there's the handles and stuff now, and people are doing all the kind of aluminium honeycomb, like in resin, and it's pretty. I imagine that's something like, it's like anything. Spend decades just learning the craft.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. I was going to say, I saw, I think it was Chris, CM Cutlery, CM Makes. Well, Jamie, you'll know off the top of your head. Chris, who you've made the 3D printing stuff for, who does the knives.
Causeway Supply?
No. Can't be, not that Chris then, must be a different Chris. CM something, I'll have to look it up and put it into the thing. Looking at chef's knife he was been working on Instagram earlier, it was just like absolutely drooling over it because it was just so beautiful. I was thinking, there's just no way I can afford that. It's got to be hundreds of pounds. Just for the metal. It was gorgeous Damascus style, gorgeous handle. The shape was lovely. It was just like, I wish. But it's one of those kind of things. If I was a professional chef and it was kind of something that I could justify, then I would justify it. But
I mean, I've worked in kitchens. I was a chef for like 18 years, and if I had one of those knives, it would not be going in the kitchen with other chefs.
Well, that's the danger, isn't it?
It's the last place I'd take it.
So, personal holster.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
On the back. Yeah.
Just with a
machete.
A little tiny paring knife.
On the other side, yeah.
Like that.
be like Blade with his sword at the back.
You'd have to do it like Deadpool style, wouldn't you? With the two, just have one proper
two
knife
tiny
and
little
then
knives.
Two little.
Like if you had a little plastic fork and knife in the back. I was chatting to Jonathan a little while ago, because I'm like really surprised he doesn't do any YouTube like videos, any maker videos, because probably just doesn't have the time. But
That's what it is. Yeah, I'm in a chat with Johnny. I chat to him quite a lot, and he gets a very, very limited window to do stuff out. So he's concentrating on efficiency quite a lot to just be able to dive in, smash out as much work as he can, get as many blanks forged or whatever. He's got the process really, really beautifully down now.
Yes, just doing all the handles all at once and all the pins and stuff. Yeah. No,
it's spoiled rotten in this WhatsApp chat because he'll be finishing working on something, and he'll just send us like a load of videos of all the knives he's working on. So it's like
knife porn.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, 16 unread messages. Oh god, now this is going to be really, really just annoyingly good.
Yeah. And that's it. It's just kind of, it doesn't matter who you chat to, like in the maker community. They all show you stuff, and you're always just kind of bamboozled by talent. Just seeing the stuff that people make. It's just like, oh god.
Well, I won a sign in a competition that was just like mind blowing. Just this bloke that came out of nowhere and went, "Oh look, guys, I've just made this sign for a podcast that I like," and just
Well,
for those who can't see, I'm pointing at the
for the benefit of the audio listeners,
the Fools of Tools sign that is behind me. That's not usually lit up. Was created by the very wonderful Phil Thompson, who is sat with us.
Yeah, that was the birth of the podcast, because I was like putting it together, and then it was kind of like, oh, I might make a little story for it. Can I put a little backstory? And it was like, okay, it's some old world ancient energy source beacon that a captain and his AI come across, and it's like a derelict spaceship. And then I asked Patty, that's in the group, like, oh, do you want to play Steve, the AI? He's like, yeah, cool. And the podcast was pretty much birthed by me writing a line, and in it she says no life signs, and it's the way that she actually just delivered it. With that, no life signs, something just kind of went click in my head. It was like, oh, this is a really good idea.
I suppose for the benefit of everyone listening is that Phil has a wonderful audio sci-fi extravaganza podcasty YouTubey typey thing called Dark Star One, which is absolutely well worth a listen. It's sort of a completely original sci-fi story, but for the maker community, sort of starring the maker community as well, and
yourself,
the various roles. Yeah, you've kind of taken everyone's kind of maker persona and amplified it. So I'm just this wizened old creature.
Like a wise sage, kind of like, because everybody comes to you for advice anyway for stuff. I was like, all right. I find it funny because it's like, I'll have an idea for a character, and then say, for example, I said to Redsmith, what do you want to play? And it's like, I want to play a futuristic, like, ninja assassin from the future. I was like, sure,
deal. Yeah.
So then I just like percolate just for a few days, and I remember I was just like washing up, and I was like trying to think of a name, and it's just like nothing was sticking and stuff. And then the name sticking hurt, and then the name Sticks just came into my head, and I was like, oh, that really works. And he was like, perfect, I like it. And then the like character for Lindsay, I wanted her to be like an energy ball, like this really sassy kind of alien that was like an energy ball and stuff. And she was like, no, I think I'd like to be like a counselor and a bit like a hippie and stuff, and a bit bohemian. I was like, that works as well. Yeah, why not? I've learned to lean into the crazy with it all, because I was like, this is my idea, this is my podcast and my story, and it has to be done like this. And that was what episode 1. And by episode 2, I was like, fuck it, just lean into the crazy. let people play what they want to play, and I'll just work around it. I'll just weave within that narrative with these people and stuff.
It was quite nice. It's sort of been because I've sort of been involved since pretty early on, I think. And your sort of initial ideas, you were like, oh, so it's going to be this story that's sort of centered around this captain, and then like now you sort of reading the scripts and stuff, and it's like, is the captain actually in this scene?
Yeah, well, I've got to think
like lots of chats about like all your other maker friends, and it's sort of like you writing the narrative of what you'd love to see in the after party at Maker Central sort of thing, rather than necessarily
that was an idea from Maker Central. It's kind of like you put a load of people like that together, and they just chat shit for hours and hours on end. And it is a community. It is like a little family in a gathering.
Makers Waffle.
Yeah.
I was just going to say, that's the basis of our show.
Yeah, just chat shit. Yeah. So that I had that in the back of my mind, but it was kind of like, well, if you've got any kind of, well, it doesn't matter if there's like a crew or if there's people in an army or something like that, you always have these little, even though there might be a bigger kind of like group of people, you'll still have little cliques within that, people who get on better and all the dynamics between all the people and them bouncing off. So I do have to put like post-it notes around the monitor when I'm making the story, because I'll just forget to put somebody in. I'll go, oh yeah, I hadn't even written Lars in this episode. I forgot all about him, so I'll have to go back and just like. But he's normally, the character is based on the Doctor from Cannonball Run, the one that's just smacked out of his face all the way through it, with a massive big googly eyes. And I was trying to.
You've got this sort of like massive background in like nerd culture.
Yeah,
and that's just, it's like the little Easter eggs that you weave into this. Like, oh, I remember that from such a weird backwater thing that only 3 people have ever seen.
Exactly, and there's just only me that knows. Yeah, there's there's something in episode 3 when this thing comes on like a tannoy, like in the space station, and it has like a little noise at the beginning, there's going to be an announcement. And that is the first 2 or 3 chords from the Firefly theme music that I've just morphed a little bit. Nobody knows that I've done that until now. Somebody might go back and listen and go, "Oh yeah, there's only me that knows that."
It's peek beneath the curtain.
Yeah, exactly. I'm always chuckling to myself when I'm like writing. I've got an idea, because I'm thinking, how many people are going to get this? I am actually using some sound effects from other films and stuff. There's the cryo chamber opening from Aliens. There's what else have I got? Nostromo from Alien, when it boots up at the beginning. That's the boot scene that I sometimes have on in the background and stuff. I imagine if it was ever to move forward, if somebody, one of the bigwigs, heard that and said, "Yeah, you can't really be using effects from other films and stuff," you might want to take that out. But like with
enough, they won't know. Yeah,
Series 2, you'd be fine.
Yeah.
Well, I was kind of thinking, I was like, is it going to be seasons, whatever, or is it going to be continual? Is it going to be like Coronation Street and just go on for 55 years with no break, or is it just going to be?
Believe that, yeah.
Somebody asked me how many episodes do you see it going? I was like, hundreds. There's no. The thing is, it's like, well, even though there's like the big bad, like the Dark Star, just because you've defeated it doesn't mean it's like Marvel. Okay, we've just defeated Thanos, but here's
Phase 4.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And it's kind of like, there's nothing to say that there might be something that comes into the show, like in the first series, that might become the big bad, or I want it to be able to veer off. So there's the story. There's my cat's just anything that is not meant to touch. So there's like the story, but there's all these characters, and it could be one episode where it's just maybe how me and Steve got introduced to one another. Because she says in one of the episodes, I was very lucky to find him. How did we meet? Or how did she find me? And
that isn't necessarily one episode. That's potentially 2, 3, 4 episodes,
Exactly,
depending on
yeah.
how much you want to stretch it out.
I figured out who or what Steve is, like where, how she became the way she is and her past and stuff. That's all figured out. But it's kind of like, the captain has a past. Don't want to say too much on that one. Well, he was in the army. I'm just going to put he was in the army, and that's how he knows Lars, because Lars was the doctor. Something happened to Lars that was so traumatic, he just started like taking all the drugs just to forget. But now he's taken so much drugs, he doesn't even know what he forgot in the first place. He's just always in the morphine cabinet and stuff. One for you, one for me, kind of.
Well, I just thought when you get Andy in there, there's a perfect character for him. It's like random tangent.
Well, I've not come up with the amazingly, character that's worthy of Andy. I'm still waiting to come up with it.
Well, let me know.
Well, episode 6, which the recording should be in today, but
I don't think I've had the script for that one.
Oh, because you're not in it. That's why.
So the cough was for the benefit of the other cast members who might be listening. Yeah.
Pressure up at least now.
Yeah. So I mean, episode 6 introduces, at the moment, 2 more makers. But I've got side characters in there as well who I need to figure out who can, they can be. Because like episode 3 had, including me, had 34 people recording voices like for it. That was like the crew, all the kind of the background kind of like characters. So you've got market stall sellers, there was Janie and Dandles. I even got Jen Schachter from Tested in there as well.
Fantastic.
Yeah,
nice.
Then we had Christopher De Boer. He was doing like things over the tannoy and stuff.
There's an eyeball in my drink.
There's an eyeball. Yep.
There's an eyeball in my drink. Who had that line, didn't we?
Yeah. There was Christopher's wife. I mean, the funniest thing I've had so far was I actually looked up alcoholic beverages in Star Trek, and one came up called blood wine. So, yeah, and then Emily, she was playing this waitress or barmaid called Babs, and I send this line to Turkworks Tim, 2 blood wines, please, Babs. But either it kind of corrected me or he read it wrong, and when it came back, he was doing it in a Liverpudlian accent. I went, 2 blood wines, please, babes, like that. But I didn't know he was going to say it, and I just like, oh, that has to go in the show. It just has to go in. It's just like, that's fantastic. I didn't even know he was going to do a Liverpudlian accent. It was just like, and that's the beauty of it. I don't know what I'm going to get when I open somebody's recordings. Yeah. I mean, Rasmus, I was like, okay, I like Rasmus's accent. And is like this Scottish Chekhov from Star Trek. I was like, where the hell did that come from?
So, because I'd only listened to that episode the other day. I know I'm terrible. I'm so far behind. But what was really weird with that is that accent came through, and I was like, that's weird. Who's this Scottish person? And I'd only been speaking to Rasmus literally the night before on a hangout. So it took me a good 3 or 4 lines of dialogue, back and forth between the two of you before I realised, oh, shit, that's Rasmus.
Yeah. I was listening, just going, what in the sweet baby Jesus is this? And I was like, do I tell him to do a double accent? And I started like listening, and I was like, oh, actually, no, this is actually really good. I was like, all right, there you go. And then like Mackenzie, who plays Stitches, I didn't ask her to do that. She just came out. She did 2 different.
Brilliant character.
Yeah. I mean, there was an idea because in my head, see, the beauty of it is somebody can listen. It's like reading a book. You paint your own picture, you paint your own story in your head.
Yeah.
So when people listen to the show, they'll have different ideas of characters and stuff. But I think with Stitches, in my head, like she's tiny, she's quite small. Yeah. But, it's like in the last episode when Skip comes and he's wearing the really short robe. And she's like, "Wow, that is a short rope." But obviously the end of his penis is hanging underneath, and stuff, and she can see it. And I'm like, "Close your legs." She's at eye level with that thing, And I'm writing this
that
stuff.
mental picture. That is exactly the mental picture I got. So thank you for that. But that of her being just really, 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 really tiny. But obviously him being a reasonable, I was going to say a reasonable size of person, but it's probably not doing him justice. But
Well, I mean, I got the recordings from John, first of all, and I was like, in my head, he was very much like, what's his name? Zach Brannigan from Futurama. So he's kind of like this really brash, overly confident, like hero and stuff. But I just not made him as stupid as Zach Brannigan. But like in his time, like Skip is just like, two oozes, John Woo, doves flying everywhere. There's just bodies everywhere. He's always walking away into the sunset with a woman over his shoulder or something like that. He's always in perfect profile and big smile and a good chisel. He's just that kind of hero. Small waist, really wide shoulders and stuff. And that's kind of like I was showing different people's places where they are in the ship. So it kind of goes to Harmony, who's listening to whale music, and she's got the little gong and she's meditating. And then there's Lars, who's smashing his room up because he's looking for his monkey and he's got a banana stuck in his bumhole. And then, I mean, I write this stuff just going, nobody's going to say yes to this. And then I just get the recordings back and I'm like, oh, well, I fell for it again.
Do we all cut out the laugh tracks, or do some of us leave them in so you just get our failed attempts where we get halfway through the line and doubled over crying?
I don't get that many bloopers. I got a few like before. I mean, I did get one that she sent when Steve says, "I'm sorry, Captain, I thought you might have been slapping the salami." And when Patty had said that, she just went, "Oh, geez," like that, and just started laughing. And that's actually at the end of the episode when the music comes up. I put that blooper in. And I think Al sometimes goes like off kilter, and I think it might be episode 3 when you play Rusty, and Rusty's going, "Who's up for Taco Tuesday?"
Yeah.
Yeah, and then he's like, "Who's up?"
Over.
Yeah, who's up for Toast Thursday? No, that's shit. Who's up for Sausage Saturday? She knows what I'm on about. Look at her face. And I thought, oh, it has to go in because it's great. But the thing is, it's like I say to people, if they can, do like 2 lines how I've written it, and then just do a couple, whatever. And there's a lot of the times where it's great, and I'll put that in. Lars goes off on, well, being Lars, and most of the time I put it in. Or, I mean, there's a bit in episode 3 when Lars is going Rusty Bucket, and he's going bouquet, bucket, bouquet. But that wasn't in the script. But I just heard the different variations, how they did the lines. I was like, oh, they could have a little bit of a thing here, And
that sort of tete-a-tete was really. It just made it all feel a lot more natural.
Yeah.
It's the way you've edited it feels like we are all recording it together. It's not just.
Yeah, I mean, it could be really. It could very easily just sound like loads of delivery just stitched together. But I mean, I've got to put it all in the software and level it and stuff because other people's rooms are different and there's all reverb. I've got to de-reverb everybody so it's down to the base level. And I've got to put everybody's. I think I got like Lindsay's recording once, and I had to boost it 4 times just to even get like an audio level. But then there was just so much hiss behind it. It sounded like she was just in a room full of snakes, because I had to boost everything. So it's, I mean, I've had to learn. I mean, I actually do all the editing in a video editing software. I do it completely backwards.
Really?
Yeah, I do it in HitFilm, which I've edited like videos in. But I just thought I can't be asked learning another piece of software, to do the. I can do it in this, and then I can also, add visuals to it if I want to.
Yeah.
Because my background, my dad's an audio engineer, so I grew up seeing things like Wavelab and stuff like that, which is like that's
what I use as well. Yeah.
Well, Wavelab was was like the paid for thing that Audacity now gives you for free. So like
Oh,
I
right.
go into Audacity because it's almost identical to Wavelab that I used to look at and watch my dad using when I was
Yeah.
10, 11, 12. So like for me, I literally I'll like denoise it and normalize it, and that's like the two things that I remember from 20 years ago.
Mm.
So I like do them and go, Phil, I hope that's okay. It's your problem.
Well, it's kind of like there's effects in the video editing things for the audio, but it's crap. So I do all that stuff in WavePad. So that's changing people's pitch or speed or putting echo and reverb, because like the effects on your character, that's reversed, and then there's reverb put on it and then reversed back, so it has that kind of whoop up to the and there's echo, but then you don't put echo on all of it. You just put it on like on the last like half a word or something. But I've had to learn all this. First episode, I just chucked everything at it, and it's a little bit like just a wall of noise. It's kind of like, whoa, okay, well, I can't understand what he's saying or he's saying. But
that's the thing is, even over those few episodes, you can see that progression. But obviously, that we're just seeing that in the sense of what it was like 10 minutes the first episode and like 45 minutes the last one or whatever it was. That progression over what we're hearing is basically like about 2 hours worth of total stuff to listen to. But it's probably close to 1,000 hours of you actually putting time into it and learning stuff and editing and script writing and so it's not surprising that you've come a long way in just a short space of actual listenable time.
I mean, if I had all the time in the world, and money wasn't a problem, it could be one banged out. If I did it, I mean, so episode 6 was 3/4 written when episode 5 was being edited. So then I finished editing 5, finished 6 straight away, and then sent it to everyone and said, right, 2 weeks. But if I had all my timings right, I could be, whilst people doing their recordings in those 2 weeks, I could be editing an episode in those 2 weeks. So there's all this constant kind of like flow. But I even made music for episode 5 as well. When Janie appears and there's all that kind of elven music, I was just messing about and just made that on Ableton, and it's my little nod to Lord of the Rings. There's all this elven. I've got this Ableton library. There's all this elvish like speaking that I'm having it swirled around and stuff. And I mean, I put stuff into the show, but I don't know if people pick up on it. Like when obviously I've kind of spoilers. If like in episode 5 when something happens and then Janie turns up, obviously the captain's in trouble. So when I start talking and he's starting to believe about maybe the future ahead of him, you'll hear electricity just starting to crackle. Just like, and then I start talking more and you can hear it. And it starts getting more and more and more because it's building up to something. And that moment when she says, and so do I, and then it all kind of fizzles out, and then all of the storm like audio comes back in. I was just so lucky. I mean, I've got all this royalty-free music, and I generally listen to the scene. I know exactly what's happening, and then I go, right, I need to find the right piece of music. And there's 372 songs, and I just copy them all and paste, and I just go through every single one and just try. And even if I go, oh, that's not the right start, well, sometimes there's chorus, so will that bit work? And it was the second song that I actually came across when it gets to that bit when she goes, and now so do I, and this kind of little drum and bassy track that I found. Then the audio comes in, and then your character goes, Captain, remember to breathe. And then all the lightning like hits the captain, and he kind of wakes up and stuff. And yeah, it's like I was doing it, I was just getting goosebumps, just like doing it, going, "This is fucking awesome." I was like, because I'm making stuff that I want to listen to.
Yeah, I love the idea that you've got all this imagery in your head that, of course, you're just trying to get all of the stuff out of your head and get it into a thing that people can listen to,
exactly,
and then get that into their head. It's
painting a story with noises, because there's no visuals to go with it. So, when you listen to an audiobook, somebody's describing stuff to you in third person or first person, whatever. But that's the story in your ears. That's what's going on. So, doing that at that episode, there was there was 18 different channels that was all going on, like at some points, because there's the music going on, but I don't have the music right in the middle. I have it doubled on the left and the right because I want the audio to be in the middle. But then you've got the rain. There's 3 different rain tracks like going on, and then you've got the thunder, and then you bring some wolves into it, and then you've got like the ship that crashes, and then you hear all the metal twisting in the background, and then you've got the audio. So I'm just keep adding all these extra channels because I'm adding all these extra effects, and then so I have to constantly just keep saving it because hit film crashes. Because it's just kind of like it's just like, you know, straining at the seams. Stop putting all this stuff. but you're right. It is trying to get whatever's in here, you know, and make it sound. I mean, I love, like I say, pop culture and movies and comics and TV, film, whatever it is. And you know what you like at the end of the day. And I just like when people say to me, "You're putting too many ideas in the show." You know, there's too many ideas being thrown. It's like, yeah, but I've got loads of ideas, and I'm not going to run out of ideas. And like somebody just went, yeah, but you know, have an episode, but have something really interesting happen at the end. I was like, yeah, what about the other 40 minutes? Just people just sat around having a chat. I was like, that's, to me, that's rubbish.
That was episode 1, wasn't it? There was a 20-minute segment of people just sat having a chat.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's kind of like, but then I start crawling through dead bodies and, you know, and stuff, and I, you know, it gets a little bit weird. I thought the good introduction was either they're all just sat having like a meal in the canteen or something. Then I thought, well, why not have some kind of therapy little chat where nobody wants to be there and everyone's a bit grumpy and, you know, Harmony is trying to like wrangle. I mean, it kind of like, well, I say that making this podcast is like herding cats. Generally, because you know people are so busy and they're giving their free time to me, but I've got to try and wrangle it, you know, all together. And but I kind of like I didn't realize that when I started making it, but that's kind of like how it starts when, you know, Harmony's trying to get everybody to chat and nobody wants to be there and stuff. But you know, I used to watch episodes like Lost. They put all these ideas in and they have no idea what was actually happening in the show, and then nothing actually happens till the last 2 minutes. And then you watch the next episode, and then it doesn't even follow on from the thing that they dropped in the last 2 minutes. It's like, yeah, this is rubbish. And I'd just rather just throw everything up, because I don't know how long I'll be able to make this, you know. If it lasts 10, 20 episodes, I'll be more than happy. So if I can just try and get what's going on in my brain like down. But there's all ideas that are changing about the show all the time. Like I'll chat to somebody and they'll have an idea and they're like, oh, I didn't even think of that. And I might go off on a bit of a tangent with the story or something. But I think there's just a lot of scope with the story and the people involved, you know, because like there's a well of creativity out there. So if it does get more popular and get the views, if we're able to get sponsors for the show or, you know, some kind of funding for it or something, then, you know, you can pay artists, conceptual artists to come up with the ship and the characters, and somebody might actually make music for it, the visual effects for it.
I just love the idea of there being this, you know, really sort of like jovial, fun, sci-fi based scene, and then one of the characters says, "Oh, 1 second, I just need to get this evolution chop saw out to cut this piece of."
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you there, Captain. My ISO tunes were turned on. Yeah, like,
is anybody playing really World of Tanks at the minute?
Oh yeah. What's the other one that's everyone's doing?
Skillshare.
Shadow Legends.
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah.
Yeah, we could just stop telling Lars to stop playing on his little Switch or something. And there's just, what was that, Captain? I'm just playing Rage Shadow Legends. Oh, jeez.
Oh, we seem to be getting into some dicey waters. Maybe we need a VPN.
Yeah, that's the thing, isn't it? Yeah. Nord VPN. I mean, you listen to...
that's those sponsors enough, anyway.
Yeah. But you listen to like Mission to Zix. Have you heard of that?
No.
I'll put you onto that. That's I think they're just on the last season now, and it's just fully improvised. They'll have a story going in and where they want to go, the episode you have to go to, but it's completely improvised all the way through. But like the first
one, then.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, I'm literally just winging it. But yeah, they'll halfway through they'll have a sponsor like on it, and it's just so blatantly just kind of wedged into the episode. It's kind of, it just takes you out of the story a little bit. But if you know, companies are always looking for new IPs. They're always looking for new ideas. And you know, they could listen to the show, and it's not, you know, professional quality, but the idea's there, and you can see, you know, the time put into it. So, you know, it could quite easily get picked up and made into like a PG-13 kind of Final Space kind of cartoon. So easily.
That's something you and I have spoken about before, is the kind of the vague similarity to things like Final Space, and
yeah,
you know, and even with, you know, popularity of stuff like Star Trek Lower Decks at the minute and things like that.
Yeah, well, that's all right. Some of it's good.
I really enjoy that. I'm really loving Lower Decks.
I didn't like the dynamic at first. I thought the main character was just too wishy-washy, but then I kind of well, that's kind of the point. He's a pushover and he's a kiss ass, you know. Yeah. And it's the captain's daughter who's like the badass like in it and stuff. I think it's just started again, hasn't it?
It has, yeah. Season 2's just started a few episodes in, but so's Final Space Series 3 has recently come out.
Yeah, I've seen it all. Yeah,
yeah.
Well, maybe I haven't seen it.
Yeah. Well, like we might have watched the first episode, and it was just...
It's bonkers.
Absolutely bonkers. The whole thing has been bonkers anyway, but...
Well, I actually tweeted after it finished, because I loved the first series, loved it to pieces. Second series comes in, and Gary is just so washed down because they wanted other characters to come in, so he had to take a step back. So he wasn't this kind of manic, like over-the-top, like gung-ho guy that he was before. And but then series 3 came on, and he's back to being like who he was, which is he's just batshit crazy, but he's just very lovable with it as well. And I actually tweeted, and I got the guy who plays Hugh and the actual producer of Final Space like in the tweet, because I actually just said I didn't like series 2, but series 3 reminds me how good series 1 was. I thought Gary was just too wishy-washy and he was just too plain. And then two of the guys who actually are in the show and make it, they produce it, liked my tweet. I was like, oh, nice. Maybe they agree with me.
Yeah. The subtle dig at those pen pushers who decided to change series 2.
Well, this is it. I think, you know, sometimes there's that old adage, isn't there? There's too many cooks. You know, when a studio gets involved, and you've seen it with some films like Spider-Man 3 or something, the studio gets involved, ruins the actual creator's vision of something, and it's not what they want at the end of it. You know, I think it happened with the first Suicide Squad, where they wanted to change it because the studio said it's too dark, and then they edited it and chopped it up, and terrible.
Well, I know, you know, I've talked before about that, like Andromeda was really weird like that, you know, like getting 4 really good series with this fantastic arc that runs through the whole thing, wraps it up beautifully at the end of series 4, and then the studio went, let's make a 5th series. You know, completely, you know, you couldn't do it properly at the end of that, you know, and things like Alias, Jennifer Garner, they had this fantastic story that was going to run through several series, and it was going to be this, you know, fantastic spy show and everything. And then we sort of got to the end of series 1 and said, well, actually, let's try and bring in a new audience. So the big massive cliffhanger that you've just done at the end of series 1, let's just backpedal on all that, ready for series 2 for people who didn't watch series 1, even though it's just got loads and loads and loads of awards and is amazingly outstanding and something like that. Let's just completely change it to get more people in, you know. And then
I think they did that with like Person of Interest as well. They had all this huge fan base and then just changed it. You know, it's kind of like, well, no, why are you changing stuff? But I think just executives and stuff, they want views, they want viewers, they want eyeballs.
Yeah.
So that's why sometimes you see, you know, 5 million different reality shows, you know, Cooking with Sharks or something, because they know that people are going to watch it, you know.
Jersey Shore and all that kind of, yeah,
shite. It's terrible stuff, but people watch it, and you know, so I was looking at this website, and it's what all the major studios and stuff kind of dip into, this pool of talent. And then you pay to this website, and you can actually pitch like a screenplay or ideas for shows.
Yeah.
80% of the pitches and stuff is all for reality shows and stuff that I picked up. You know, hang gliding to Mars, and all this kind of like just weird drivel, and it gets picked up. But it might only get picked up for one season, and then just like chopped. But they're just throwing enough at the wall to see what sticks. You know, because
of course,
1 year it's like tiny house conversions, or the next thing it's just living off grid or something. There's all these different trends. But I actually thought about paying for the website. There's a certain price, and you could put one pitch in, or another price put 3 pitches in. But you can push the pitch forward, and all the big studios, even like Apple, Sony, and Amazon, Netflix, they all have the executives that are looking through all these pitches. And it's, there's many templates out there for you to be able to write a screenplay, or, I mean, it could be made into a film. No, it couldn't really. If it was about 10 hours long, I guess. Yeah. Lord of the Rings.
I was just about to say, get Peter Jackson involved, and you'd be fine. Yeah.
Well, I mean, there's sci-fi, but there's generally, it can look really cheap sometimes if it's not got the budget behind it.
I think, something like mine's gone completely blank, but the Sam Neill's in it and stuff.
Event Horizon.
Event Horizon, yeah. It's a very, very dark, gritty sci-fi horror type thing, which would be perfect kind of pitch genre for Darkstar 1. As like if you were going to sum up where it's going to be, it's sort of sat squarely in that kind of sci-fi lunacy horror.
I mean, I used to be really big into horror. I mean, I'm wearing a Evil Dead kind of like reference here. I used to be really into horror, but I just had one bad experience watching one film, and I've never been able to go back to it. But
I've seen Signs as well. It's awful.
Oh, what did somebody wrote about that once? It says, "Are you saying to me that they've actually conquered space and time? They can go vast distances in space, but they can't turn the door handle." It was that scene where they've got a knife underneath the door, and they're looking, and they can't turn the handle. And it's like, what kind of morons are these?
Go to a planet that's 60% water and die.
They're afraid of water.
Yeah.
Didn't think that one through. I don't think really. But you see Star Trek Discovery, and you see the budget like behind it, and then you look at the Orville that came out with, and it looks like they had about $100 for the set. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it was what's his face? Did a lot of work on the sets, but guy who used to work with the guys from Tested.
Jamie.
No. Frank Ippolito, and his I forget what the studio is, or we'll get the stuff and link it, but he amazing growth. He prop maker, and it does a lot of really cool, like really funky cosplays. He's one of these guys he's got so much talent and so much skill, and has now got so much work. Like in the time I sort of discovered him doing stuff. He was doing, there was like a little tiny workshop, and it was him and like another bloke, or maybe 2 other people, and they were just kind of doing a couple of little bits and bobs. And then they did some stuff with Tested. He made like a life, full kind of like human style version of some of the Futurama characters. So like a full like kind of realized real world version of Zoidberg and of Professor Farnsworth and stuff like that, as cosplays, which is like grotesquely beautiful. But then he's done like Admiral Akbar and all of these other like amazing characters, and then he's since been picked up to do things like the Orville and doing work in these like massive movies, and over the course of a few years has got this like colossal empire now. Because it's like that one sort of thing of someone realizing somewhere, hang on, this guy's really, really good. He's
That's it.
got a lot of skill and talent. And
I mean, that's one of the things I love, because there's people that have done all these cosplays, and they've I think they might have been at San Diego. They were going there with all their Mass Effect things. There's quite a few of them, and they've got picked up. They're now actually employed to make the costumes for the film that they're trying to put together and stuff. There's the Android making community, and people always like to make their own R2D2, and two of those, maybe three of those guys were picked up, and then they actually made R2D2 for the prequels and stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just a nerd's dream, isn't it?
This guy recently doing the rotoscoping for the finale of
Mandalorian.
Yes, thank you. They not to spoil the end of the Mandalorian, but there was a character appeared in it that was de-aged, and some kid just decided to have another go at it and did a better version. And
All the deep fake stuff.
All the deep fake stuff, de-aging this character, and loads of people were like, "This is amazing. This is way better than the original." And
it was, yeah.
Yeah.
You see some of the deep fake stuff's insanely good.
Scary, isn't it?
It is. It really is.
Remember, the lightsaber effects from the Star Wars prequels. Again, there was a kid who'd done a lightsaber fight with a mate of his, and it was a Jedi and Sith battle, and they did this fantastic thing, and he'd developed a new way of doing the lightsaber effect, and then ILM picked him up, because it was a fantastic, really realistic way of doing it that was better than their way. So they grabbed him and dragged him into the fold, sort of thing.
That's it. I mean, if there's talent there, why not get it? There's so many things that are made, and just the writing's terrible. It's I tried to. You don't see the bum hole. It's kind of like people complaining about the last series of Doctor Who. They love it, but they're just saying the writing for the last series. I mean, I've not seen it, but so much complaint about the writing involved in the last. They said, well, there's now going to be a new Doctor, and everyone's like, well, can we please get some new writers as well? Because it's a character that they love, and it deserves to have good writing behind it. It's been going a long time.
Yeah, 50 years.
Yeah. And people love it, but they want people to do it justice. And it's like, if you're going to make a show with a character that's loved, you really want to have a good story behind it. You want people to come back and watch it. It's kind of with anything, isn't it? Don't do it half-assed.
Yeah, or cat-assed.
I put a Band-Aid over it or something.
It'd be a cat-ass trophy.
You said earlier, if you managed to get 10 or 20 episodes, you'd be pleased. But would you like to go to just continue and continue and
absolutely
as long as you can make it, and maybe even one day pass it on to somebody else to sort of carry on the mantle.
Well, ideally, if it was popular and it did go, and get a proper production and stuff, I'd love to be the little conductor, little mad genius in the middle, going, all of a sudden I'm going to some voice recording, and then I'm going to go talk to some graphic designers and some VFX, some guys. I'd like to be selling it on, but be creative director or something like that. But obviously I don't know what's going to happen with it. It might just be one of those small little things that just goes on for a long time. Welcome to Night Vale, which is popular now. That, I think the guy said it was 50 or 100 episodes before it picked up traction. So you just don't know. All it only takes is the one right person to hear it and go, oh, I see something in that.
Yeah,
absolutely.
That's all it takes. Yeah, if it pops up on some guy or some woman who works for Netflix or something on a weird thing that pops up on a YouTube and go, oh, what's that? oh, actually, that's not bad. And then she might go take it to somebody. You just don't know.
Yeah, exactly.
Or somebody will just steal the idea and make it themselves. That's probably more unlikely. So they'd have to pay for it.
It's still the idea of using the special effects from every sci-fi on the planet.
Yeah, just get sued by everyone. Yeah. But, I mean, yeah, I mean, I can see a lot of longevity, like in the show. You know, there could be spin-offs. If Fast and the Furious can make 9 movies, I'm sure that, you know,
absolutely. It's the Dark Star 1 Lars and Harmony saga.
Spin-off.
Yeah.
Like Dark Star SUV, what would they call it? SVU. Or you could have it different places. Dark Star leads.
Dark Star 2, Dark Star 3, Dark Star 4.
Well,
Dark
this
Star
is the
5.
thing which nobody has ever actually asked me. Dark Star 1 is the name of the ship. But why? Obviously, there's going to be others.
Yeah.
Is there a Dark Star 2 or a Dark Star 3? Yeah.
Or a Light Star 1. Or
No.
why is the ship named after the same bad guy?
Well, if you go back and listen to stuff, episode 1 uses a phrase called the Dark Star Initiative.
It does.
I actually dropped quite big hints in the show. Just people, because, you know, you might be doing something else, but there is big hints to what's gone on, like in the past. Even like in the trailer that I made, I kind of put together. There's a big spoiler, like kind of ish about the ship, like in that. Because it's like, can you hear the music? I don't know if my mic will be able to pick it up. That'll be Post Malone at the Leeds Fest. It's really quite loud. I was listening to Liam Gallagher on Friday night. I was like, is somebody playing Oasis outside in their car? And I went outside and it was him playing one of the Oasis songs. But no, I do drop a lot of like hints like in the show. So it just depends if people are paying attention, you know, or not. So in the first episode, when the captain's like in the bodies, the limbs and stuff, and it's like, oh, I almost got it. Then he touches it and he goes through all these things. Like there's the Cosmic Oracle there, like talking, and then there's actually the Dark Star is talking in there, you know, saying stuff. Yeah, actually no, there's 2 big things in the trailer. Actually, which are major kind of like plot things. It's like, but
So what you really need is for maybe some keen fans to start a Dark Star wiki, a bit like you get kind of wikis for Firefly, Doctor Who, and all the rest, where they kind of look character by character analysis and storylines and episode breakdown. And
well, it's kind of like now. Yeah, I mean, I'd love that, the conspiracy theories and stuff. But it's like now, you know, especially with the reaction culture that's going on, you know, a trailer will come out and then an hour later there'll be a breakdown of that trailer, like there was one for Spider-Man, all the Easter eggs and stuff. So if there was when the episodes came out, there could be somebody breaking it down. You know, what does this mean? What did this conversation mean between these two?
The next YouTube channel that you start is going to have to be the Dark Star 1 behind the scenes, or the maybe the Dark Star 2, you know, post-show breakdown sessions.
Yeah, well, you've got like Walking Dead, then Talking Dead, and stuff like that. Yeah. I think that there is a Star Trek one as well with Will Wheaton for Discovery. That they always do. So, you know, we could get Patrick Stewart and Ian McKellen, you know, doing a breakdown of the latest Dark Star episode or something.
I think maybe Dark Star once. You do a couple of episodes back.
Well, I mean, that's why I did like the one episode. I didn't know whether it was just worth doing. Was like the Captain's Supplemental Diary Cosmic Log or whatever it was. I don't know where. And then it's just me kind of like talking about what's just happened, like in the episode. But I mean, I'm even doing the fake adverts, you know, as well.
Yeah,
like for it.
Do like those.
Yeah, I mean, like Lars had mentioned Revivitrol like a few times, like in chats, and then he just recorded it. When he sent over episode 5 lines, I I got them, but I didn't like listen to them just yet. And he was like, "Have you listened to the recordings, the ones that titled bonus?" I was like, "No, what?" And then yeah, he'd done it, so I was like, "Oh, well, let's do this trailer." And like even James Malton Make, I was actually going to get him to do the voiceover for the brothel, the Legs Akimbo casino and brothel, and he just decided to do one about Crestridge rifles instead. So I actually mentioned Mr. Crestridge in episode 5, and I'm not alone. I've got my friend with me, Mr. Crestridge, and so yeah, I mean, it's just I just love it. I want people to feel like they've got like complete freedom. You know, here's a script.
Creative input as well.
Yeah, I mean, I've talked to friends and they're like, "There's no way that you'll hand over, you know, creativity and stuff." It's like, no, I love it because I've got in my head how somebody might do a delivery of a line, and then they just do it completely different. You know, and then they might just ad lib something which is a lot better than what I wrote. You know, I'm not saying my way is the only way. I'm just the one that's just happened to be writing it. That's all.
Well, yeah, you're getting us all into character enough for us to just throw any old rubbish at you.
Yeah, and it's kind of like having people to be comfortable with the character as well. That's why I've gone, all right, who do you want to be? Who do you want to play? Because if you're not happy with the person or the thing that you're playing, you're not going to be invested, and you might not last that long. You know, people have come in and out of the show for one way or another. You know, it might be time or stuff. And I think sometimes people say yes because they don't want to say no, but then they realize I just don't have the time, and that's fine because you know, I think we've had 4 N8s now. He's like the drummer from Spinal Tap. You know, we'll just keep just a revolving door of actors just playing N8 this whole time.
So that's going to be it. In 10 years' time, it's going to be, you know, we've got Triggers, Broom, and Dark Star One's N8.
Yeah, 6 different handles and 8 different heads. Yeah.
So you must have had. I mean, you mentioned. I think one of the episodes had 30, 34, 35 characters.
Yeah.
Yeah. So with the extra ones, you must have in excess of 40 people involved so far.
So let me think. So like Janie came onto episode 5, but she was also like in episode 3. And I've kind of reused sometimes, so like little background things. I don't know how many. It could be more. Could be 45. Could be. I honestly don't know. It's sometimes, if I'd have sat down and was trying to think of episode 3 in its entirety, I think my head would have exploded or imploded. But if I do it in really small increments, like okay, here's this bit of a scene, you know. But I just thought, like with episode 3, they're going to a spaceport. You can't. For me, sometimes it's very obvious when just something isn't there. So like you watch some of the DC animated films, and like Superman will be flying through Metropolis, and you go, "Where's all the people?" They've got like 2 people on the street. You go, you know, there's a hustling and bustling city. They just couldn't be bothered, you know, drawing all the characters in. So if that was the case, you know, on the spaceport, and there's like 2 people in the background, it's like it's not very busy, is it? I wanted it to be like a hive of activity and like market stalls, and you know, there's tannoys, the security, you know, shouting at people. You can hear Wookiees and all these things. Like there was so much going on, like in that episode, because you know they're going to 2 different bars, the Valhalla bar and the Dago bar. I quite like the Dago bar joke, but I actually don't think I actually called it the Dago bar, and it's just in the script. It's not actually in the show. So you've got all the characters in the background, like in the pub. You know, there's a wrestling match, and there's the brothers Make doing the.
They were fantastic in that.
Yeah, and the thing is, I actually lost the footage. I was like, it take me so long to get around to that scene, like a month or so. When I went to do it, I couldn't find it, and they were like, "We can't find it anywhere on like discs or anything." I was like, "I've lost it." And then they had a project they were doing, and they couldn't maybe like record it. I was like, "Holy shit, I've lost it!" And then I just found an old little drive, and I plugged it in, and it was there. So, Thank you, Jesus. but it's kind of like, you know, they're doing the commentator, and then you've got Sean Scrotum in there and the Undertipper. And then there's people shouting, scrotum, scrotum. And I'm like, sending these scripts out to people. And just like, I think Dandles was like, our neighbours must think, you know, we're very strange, shouting scrotum at the top of the voices in the kitchen and stuff.
Well, I mean, that's the thing, because you shot me a message saying, I know you've done like your recording and stuff, but is there any chance you can just record some other characters? Like, yeah. It's like, here's a list of things I'd like you to record. And it was literally just like, shout scrotum 5 times. You know, say there's an eyeball in my drink in three different accents. You know?
Yeah. I mean, I got that from, it was, I think they were showing it on 8 out of 10 Cats or something. And it was like the hardest pub in Britain. And it just said, this man, Willie or something, he's found the perfect way to stop people from drinking his drink. And he was just this grotty old nicotine-soaked man. And he just pulls his fake eyeball out and he just drops it in his pint. And then he goes to the toilet like that because he's like a grotty old man. But I just thought that would be quite a good little joke. Like, you know.
But like in my head, I'm thinking like the prison scene in Guardians of the Galaxy and that kind of...
Oh, yeah.
You know, or that the bar scene where they're in nowhere, you know, that kind of, that's the kind of, you know, imagery I've got in my head then. You know, it's
well, there's
terrible man making us think of those things.
Well, it's just, you know, like I say, it's like if I can like put so many layers into a scene, you're thinking of this, you know, it's like you can, the music and the background, and there's like the beginning, there's actually Han Solo's blaster and there's an Ewok getting shot because it's like, I don't like you either. Pew! Ah! That's just in the background, you know, it's, you know, I'm painting it that is quite, and I'm like, is that a human skull on the wall? Torvald's like, of course, where else would you put it? You know, I want it to be, you know, just like really rough, but, you know, people having fun, but not the kind of place you'd, you know, I mean, so, I think Torvald says, just look at the back, and I'm like, what did I say now? Is it the guy with the hump and the lazy eye? Is like, no, lady with 3 breasticles. So that was my little nod to Total Recall. You know, when the woman's got...
And to oh god damn it.
Give us a clue.
42.
Hitchhiker's Guide.
Hitchhikers. Yeah. There's the triple-breasted whore from Eroticon 6.
Yes.
You see, if I was to describe the show, I'd say it's a little bit Hitchhiker's Guide, Guardians of the Galaxy, Red Dwarf, like you say, Event Horizon. You know,
I get Blade Runner vibes.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, it's like I'm growing up. I'm like hugely into heavy metal, massively into fantasy, and I'm making a sci-fi podcast with synthwave music, and it's kind of like I think I'm making the wrong thing here. You know, like
very fixed in the 80s, isn't it?
Oh yeah. I mean, for me, it's like fantasy goes really well with like heavy metal and stuff. But like growing up, I love films, you know, like Willow, you know, something like that, you know, like when Lord of the Rings came out, and even like now they've done the 4K restoration 20 years later, it just blows my mind, you know, just the scale of it. And the kind of, in a way, that's a good template, because it's like, we need to do this and we need to get here, but every step of the way, you know, they're pretty screwed. And the chances of them surviving these small, you know, encounters and stuff are so small and minute, but it's all the tiny little victories to get to the end. And even if you do get to the end and you succeed, it's like, at what cost? You know, what have you lost on that journey? And then I'll just throw a lot of knob gags in there as well. There's a lot of toilet humor and a lot of knob gags because I can't help myself, really. If in doubt where to go with the story, put in a knob gag.
They're beautifully well done. You know, there's a lot of dad jokes in there and a lot of Austin Powers-esque kind of puns and Wayne's World nods and that kind of, you know, just plays into my sense of humour for what little there is. If, you know, classy sense of humour anyway.
Yeah, well, we're not talking highbrow like creation
Exactly.
here. Yeah, no, I'm not trying to win any like BAFTAs or anything. But at the end of the day, it's just people making a fun show, and it's entertainment at the end of the day, isn't it? It's just it's 45 minutes of complete escapism,
Yeah.
or half an hour or whatever it is. It's just kind of put it on, just listen to it, enjoy it. You don't know what's going to happen next. But the thing is, as well, it's like a bit of a tangent. It's kind of like it's the same as a composer or an artist or something. You spend all this time by yourself creating something. You don't know the reaction when you finally put it out into the world. And it's kind of like, even like with the people in the show, I don't get a lot of feedback, like at all. Like last episode on YouTube, I think Andy commented and somebody else, and that's it. It's kind of like, oh, all right. Do people like it? It's like, but then it's kind of like I've had to just realize from making it. It's like two things I've realized is to be very patient with the show. Three things I've realized: very patient in the show, lean into the craziness of it all, and just make it just for the people who are just in it. And if we like it, then that's a job well done, really.
Absolutely.
There's, I think sometimes when you're trying to pander to an audience, you just water it down. If I was going for a PG kind of like thing, I'll be putting in, like how Star Wars, putting all the little cute things in there so they can sell like merchandise, and just like watered it down because they want to tailor it to like kids and stuff. You can tell, and it's just kind of like, yeah, but there is an audience out there for, a harder kind of funny sci-fi kind of show.
Yeah, there's always people with issues.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, just get some action in there, get some like nice interaction between like people, get some knob gags in there and some action sets and stuff. I mean, like last episode, you can tell like the fantasy vibe that I like because I put that into the last show when I ended up fighting the Scalawag thing. So, I even had to do the voice for that. So I was like writing music for that scene and doing two voice like things for it as well, and doing the editing. It was like, holy Jesus.
Just to remind us, of course, you are a trained chef. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Just yeah.
Not an
yeah.
audience,
There's no. Yeah. There's no. GCSE, I did like art. A level, I did classical civilization, art and design. AS level, like sculpture. Then I did a BTEC diploma in photography and audiovisual, and then I ended up becoming a chef. It's kind of like, oh right, I was working in a pub one day, and someone was, I need somebody to come and just wash up and maybe help with starters. And then, like 2 weeks in, the chef broke his collarbone BMXing, and they ended up just working as the chef and just stayed as a chef. So I think I chef for like 18 years.
As you do.
As you do. I just kind of turned around one day and went, "What the fuck happened?" Oh, right, that was a long shift.
You sort of, because you basically came out of chefing and thought, I might just make stuff.
Well, I came home, so I was head chef at this deli, and wasn't really like enjoying it and stuff. And I came home one day and somebody had dumped 2 pallets like outside my flat, and I just thought, I can make some stuff with that. My dad was because at GCSE I also did craft design technology, so I was like into making stuff. My dad was in, so for my GCSE I made a bird like table, but it was a bit plush and it had like bent plastic roof and it had like a bath in it. I made this nice stand and stuff like that. Within 2 days it'd been blown over and smashed to smithereens, and my dad went downstairs like because he went into the cellar and he came back like 2 hours later with this kind of Rolls Royce of a bird table. I was like, oh right, okay. Like again, fantasy based. I was like, I wanted a shield, and he worked for the Leeds City Council, and he got like a road sign, and he just came home and he made me a shield, riveted and leather handle and stuff. And there you go, son. Cheers, Dad. And he was just incredible. You see, back in his day, there's no YouTube, there's no internet. If you needed to learn something, you went to the library, or you got your mate to show you, or you got a guy in to do it. So But parents didn't have a lot of money, so he was doing all the decorating and all the electrics and the gas, and they put the kitchen down in the cellar, so it was all like dug down and just all plasticed out, and he put all the electrics down there and did it all himself. Constantly to get away from the wife, he'd go tinker with his car for 4 hours to stop her from giving him more jobs in the house.
It's a long time to change a bulb.
Yeah, I mean, I've never seen.
It's about half the time you need.
I know you've never seen a guy roll up Woodbine as fast in your life. You'd be chatting to him, and you just turn around and you look back, and he'd be halfway through smoking it. He's like, "What in the hell?" But I mean, so I've always had that kind of maker thing growing up, and I've always been arty and interested in how things, created and stuff. Especially like doing sculpture and pottery, photography, like pinhole cameras and all that kind of stuff. And I just got a recording. You must have heard me. Thank you, Red. Where was I?
For both of the audio listeners, I just popped up a message that Red had put into the chat, which just said how happy he is to be part of Darkstar 1 and has great fun doing it. And thank you, Phil, for organising it.
Yeah, I mean, he's a great character, and he's not really been in it much, but it's just like the delivery, and like with the French accent and the delivery, it's perfect.
Scary.
He's not had a. Yeah, I mean, when he says he's got a. So I have talked to Red about the character and about the backstory, and that'll be a very good episode to write. That'll be very Kill Bill-esque.
The origin story, yeah.
Yeah, we have a bit of a Kill Bill vibe kind of like going on, which would be really cool. But the thing is, so Stick is actually got his own mission, but I mean, the Oracle does, send him off and to do like certain bits and pieces.
Sorry about that, Red.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. I know. I mean, I've got your backstory all sorted. The Oracle. I can't say anything about that because that's going to be a doozy. The thing is, it's like I've got all these grand ideas, but I'm going to have to write it well. The people involved are going to have to deliver it well, and then I have to execute it like really well because I want some of the scenes to be like really impactful. Like the end of Infinity War. It's like just a punch in the gut. Like, oh no. Yeah. I want that to happen in some of the episodes. I'm not saying it's anybody that's in the show at the moment, but there's going to be like serious, betrayal. There might be some deaths. There's going to be, like going back to Lord of the Rings doesn't mean that the crew all have to be together. We could go off, do different things. It can branch out and branch off into maybe two. Some people do say it's a little bit hard to keep up with the story because I do go from scene to scene to scene.
But it's only 5 episodes in.
Yeah.
That's.
But there's a lot happened really already.
Yeah. But I mean, you get that all the time with all sorts of things. Whether it's TV or films or books or any kind of story, there is that kind of aspect of trying to figure out who the characters are and who's coming back in, and once you've settled on one single innate actor,
Well, I think because like with Christopher, I think it was episode 3 when I first got him involved, and so something like I say, you just don't know what you're going to get back. I hadn't really chatted much with Chris like online, but for some reason I just get this weird kind of gut feeling about a character and who I want to play them. Doesn't mean it's the right choice, but at the moment I kind of like but like with Chris, I was just getting him do kind of like little background characters, like he was on the tannoy and he was doing the security and stuff like that. So when it did arise for another N8, I was like, I actually texted him and just said, I'm really sorry, but there's actually going to be no more side characters for you to play. And he was like, oh well, it's good whilst it lasted. I went, yeah, I'd like you to be full-time N8. He was like, oh yeah, okay, that's fine. But yeah, I mean, he did the cybernetics advert as well. I did a little fake advert. I really like that one. So it's like there's a scene in it saying about the brain computer like chip. It's only got a fatality rating of like 82.7, and there's this massive scream that was actually taken from RoboCop 2 when I took that. I was like, no, we're doing that. All right. But I mean, a lot of the stuff that I use is from like paid site. There's like Production Crate.
Have you got the Wilhelm scream in there yet?
I have.
I'm surprised I didn't spot that one yet.
That's in. I think that's in episode 3. I think or 2, because that's public domain as well. I think, isn't it? Yeah. Everyone can use that.
That's why it's in everything.
It's in every single Star Wars. They've done it on. I think it's just a running gag now. See, I like the running gags that they had. So I think in the second Indiana Jones film, is at the Obi-Wan bar. There's like little running gags between like Spielberg and Lucas stuff. And I think Indiana Jones is in episode 1. You see him, like, I think in the pod race, Indiana Jones, or maybe it's E.T. Oh no, E.T. is in episode 1 when they're at the council and they've got all these pods, and there's a little pod with E.T.s. Yeah,
because that is the headcanon, isn't it? If E.T. being a force sensitive or being a force user, that Yoda probably knows him.
Yeah, the buddies about the same size, aren't they? I mean, I'd like. I think with the characters that I've got, I think some, especially like with Stitches, there's just so much room for artists and stuff to come in. It's like through lockdown and stuff, and I was trying to I was thinking of maybe getting into like Dungeons and Dragons, because I was like found my old fighting fantasy books and stuff that I had when I was like younger. All these ones, it gives you choices. If you want to go, you're in a labyrinth, or do you want to fight them? Yeah. And there's loads, so I've still got like 40 of them.
Choose your own adventure.
Yeah, exactly. Then I found Critical Role. So it's a lot of voice actors that are from, anime and different cartoons and video games. And they just come together through the love of D&D, and they had started this campaign just at home. And I think then they worked with another Geek and Sundry, and they started like halfway through the first campaign, they started actually streaming it on Twitch. And they didn't know if it was going to be popular, and first episode was like 5,000 people. They're up to...
I really need to dig into Critical Role. Jim from Wave Cycles, he's a big fan of Critical Role. I'm a huge fan of Ashley Johnson.
Yeah.
He's one of the main people in it.
Last of Us.
Yeah. Well, I've never played Last of Us, but I've seen her in loads of other stuff, and she's just wonderful. She's
great, yeah. Well, it's got... So there's a guy called Matt Mercer, and he does all the games mastery stuff, and it's just his storytelling is redonkulous. But people involved are also very chaotic. Like there's a guy in it called Liam, and he goes, "Are there any bookstores around?" He'll go "Yeah, there's a bookstore on the street. What's it called?" And the dungeon master then just has to make stuff up on the fly, and then go, "Okay, how long's it been there?" I go, "Yeah, I'm just going to go inside," because his character that he played. He just wanted to read all the books. He was a magician, and he just wanted to learn like all the spells. So he's always on search for a bookstore. So Matthew then had to invent on the fly a bookstore and what it was called, and the person who ran it, and the names of the titles of the books that he was picking up off the shelf and stuff. It's insane. You can do that.
We know that if that kind of situation happened with you, it would be Bernard Black would be running it.
Some of those episodes were fantastic. I love Black Books. The stupidity, like the episode when Bill Bailey's inside the piano playing the piano with spoons and stuff. One episode where he gets locked in the store and he drinks all the absinthe and he eats all the dead wasps and stuff. And because he didn't see the security thing because he's looking at the Subbuteo player in the back of the guy's hair. So he gets locked inside the shop and drinks the absinthe and stuff. It's just like, yeah, why not just make stupid shit like that? People find it funny.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. It's the absurd, isn't it? It's again, it's linking back to Darkstar 1. You know, the some of the stuff you come out with is just miraculously weird.
Well, there's a scene in 6 that everyone's got the scripts for, and I say this paragraph, and I'm actually just describing what's happened in the show or what's happening in that scene, and I just say, you can't write that shit. It's like, but it's the most ridiculous thing. But I'm just breaking it down, going, this is actually what's happening right at this moment. I'm just going, you can't write it. And it's like, oh, obviously you can. But the thing is, it's like, as long as I'm enjoying it, that's all I want, really. You know.
That's all you can ask for, isn't it? You know, it's well, Chris has said in the chat, you know, Darkstar 1's got to be the biggest Maker collab going. Probably is, you know. But that's the thing, is it's something that we're all enjoying doing, and I love the fact that you've got that kind of there's no pressure on us, there's no stress on us. It's from day one. It's been, here's what I'd like to do, guys. Would you like to be involved? You know, and it's been you know, here's my baby. Here's the thing that I want to get out of my head, get into the world. If you'd like to be a part of it, be a part of it. If not, not a problem. You know, and that's,
I mean, I say to people, you know, even if they can't be in the show for whatever reason, I just say, no, it's not personal at all. I'm not going to take it personally, you know, because everyone's got their own shit going on. There's a lot going on in the world right now. I would like to be part of distraction of what's going on and stuff. But I want people to, if people are involved, to be, you know, to find it fun, you know, to want the next script to come through, you know, into the inbox, and, you know, I mean, it would be obvious if somebody was just phoning it in, you know, somebody was just.
I suppose on a technicality we all kind of are. But...
So this is why I record last, you see, because I try to be like the stitching between the delivery. I listen to how somebody just delivered a line, and then I know the line coming up, and I try to. And I've had no like training or anything, so I'm just winging it from the beginning. But I think it also helps in a way, actually knowing the person's voice who's going to be delivering the line. So it's quite nice to actually write for that voice, because you can sometimes feel like a tempo in the way people talk. So you write the right words and stuff. And then, you know, obviously people now have heard themselves, have listened back. So people are getting into it more, kind of leaning into it, you know. I don't really give much direction at all. Sometimes if there's a line,
you sort of said to me, just make it sound old.
Yeah, he's just an old guy, just old and wise. Yeah. And then I just put the effects just like over the top. I mean, like with
quite nice because I can listen back to it and not hear me talking.
And I mean, it's kind of like, in a way, like you did other recordings, and I don't want it to sound like, hang on, wasn't he just doing a voice earlier? He's just playing somebody else. You know, I mean, in the first episode, I put way too many effects on N8, and I put too many effects on Torvald as well, because I wanted him to sound, because he's 7'6", I wanted to sound like really imposing and boomy, but I just didn't do it right. And, you know, even like Rutario always used to say, you know, it's just not his wheelhouse. He just found it really, well, not uncomfortable, you know, just out of his comfort zone. But he was just willing to give it a go. You know, he was just unafraid. And that's all I can ask, really, at the end of the day. Like I say, we're not making like Shakespeare or anything here, you know.
Well, it's interesting as well, isn't it, from a thought experiment point of view, because you've got people who are involved who are, you know, serial skill collectors. We generally make stuff. We like to learn new skills. We like to play with different tools or materials or processes or things like that. You know, you've got people who make jewelry or furniture or 3D print stuff or weld or carve or, you know, things like that. But to then sort of say, here's a skill you guys could learn. How about acting? How
Yeah.
about voiceover work? And it's that kind of, it's playing to the, it's a new skill I can learn, but also saying, here's something that's definitely going to be outside your comfort zone.
It's a kind of weird thing. When make a community, they're usually quite fearless. They go, "Do you want to try this?" Yeah, okay, and they'll try it once or twice. And they go, actually, no, I prefer doing this, but they'll give it a go. Because they're willing to, to participate it and go, maybe that's not for me. That's why people branch off and do their own kind of things. I mean, I'm still trying to find my way in this. I didn't know the Maker community existed 4 years ago. I went to Maker Central. I didn't know the Maker community was a thing. I just, okay, so here's a story. Might go on for a little bit. I'll try to condense it. So
it's a waffle. Waffle away.
It's a waffle. So my sister is a nun in London. It's a Carmelite nun in closed order. And, they sell stuff on the internet. Sounds a bit shady. They've got like a thing called Crafty Nuns. So they might make a bowl or pens and stuff like that. And my sister was wood turning.
You couldn't write this shit.
No. When I said to people, my sister's a Carmelite nun, they're like, pardon me? Come again. And so she's making these bowls, and then there's another sister who's like doing pens and stuff like this. And I was like mentioning that I might get a lathe. So she was like, okay, well, here's like Axminster and have a look at those like kind of things. So I was like looking into that, and she was so I was like, I think I'd been to the first Maker Central. Before I'd gone, I'd found Nick Zametti online when he was NZ wood turning. Before he started putting shaving foam in resin and lost his mind, I think a little bit. he was just like primarily just wood turning, Now he's just putting all sorts of shit in resin and whatever. So like I actually made him this infinity mirror, this like framed infinity mirror with his logo on, and he actually read it out online and called me Paul. Cheers, Paul. Thanks, Nick. But I made it for him, and he just said, I'll send you weekend tickets to Maker Central. And I just went on the train, and I was there for 3 hours. I think, I queued up, and I saw Bobby Duke. When I've actually seen the video back, when I was watching, what's he called? It was the Brummy guy, the shaved head.
Joe Whittaker?
Yes. He did a walkthrough like video, and it actually shows me in line like for Bobby Duke, and Evan and Caitlin stood right behind me. I didn't know them. I didn't know them for Adam, but I did speak to Heath Knuckles. I still got his badge on my bag. I chatted to him. I was there for 3 hours. I just thought it was like some tool expo, like or something. Walked around by myself for 3 hours. Yeah. I was there for 3 hours, and I just got the train home. Didn't think anything of it. Saw a few videos like on YouTube, like later on, of people doing walkthroughs. There's a few videos of people in the bar at the Hilton. I think there's a video of Al trying to take some sticker down from the Hilton roof or something. I don't know.
I'll put it up.
I'll put it up. But I just didn't know about the Maker community like at all. I didn't know it was a thing. Then I found out that Al lives in the same city. We went for a beer. Told me about Fools of Tools. Saw all these reprobates in there. Fools of Tools, that's the one. So I was looking online and looking at, because I bought a lathe and wanted to know like certain things, and then I come across what's his name, Mike Walt.
Yeah.
So kind of like chatted with him like a little bit like online, then actually had a phone call with him because I was on about maybe thinking about doing my loft up and putting my workspace like in my loft. So I was kind of talking to him like a little bit, and I just said to him, oh, actually there's my sister is a wood turner down in London. She's a Carmelite nun, and there's a bit of a gap. He's like, Sister Susan? What now? It's like, yeah, Susan down in London. It's like, yeah, she's contacted me. I was giving her advice on how to make spindles and stuff, and I'm like, what?
Small world, the maker community.
Yeah, and it's just crazy stuff like that. It's just, and then, yeah, I think it's just going on to Maker Central, like in the last one. Just chatting to people. Going around and just seeing all the exhibitions and stuff, and the people, Jimmy on stage and everything. It's just kind of that. I mean, that was the start. That was the start of the book, really, wasn't it? I had an option because I made a 3 meter by 1.5 meter fabric banner, and it had like a big sign, Maker Central, in silver hologram, like vinyl, like on it. And I had all these silver pens and these gold pens, and I was going to get people to sign it. And then I was looking at the book, and I was looking at this big flag, and I was like, which one do I want to carry around? Which one's going to be easier? Well, the book's going to be easier. So I just took the book, and I thought, well, because he actually mentions dedicated to all the makers of the world, this is perfect for people, to sign.
For the benefit of those who don't know, the book being
Adam Savage's book. Oh. I just happen to have it here. Oops. So Every Tool's a Hammer by Adam Savage,
which is an absolutely brilliant book, and I would recommend anyone.
I've only read half. Don't tell him I've only read the first half.
So the first half signed, pretty much, haven't you?
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, the first person to sign it was hang on. His name is. I've forgotten his name. He's digging a tunnel. Colin Furs. Yeah. So he was the first person to sign it. So
he's only got 10 million subs on YouTube.
Yeah, small fry. So this was.
Is it 11?
I think it's 11 now. Yeah. So this was walking around. This was just going around Maker Central, walking around, getting people to sign it. I mean, there's even like Nicole Duke. There's even like Bobby's wife and stuff. People like, oh, I'm not a maker. Even like Ginny Claggett, she's like, "Oh, I'm not a maker." It's like, no, you're part of the family.
Awesome.
Just
Same with Nicole, awesome people.
Yeah, that's why they're here. And this is walking around Maker Central, and then just seeing all this, and then I came home. Job well done. Had a fantastic, life-changing weekend at Maker Central. Just thinking, I actually was like tearing up walking through the train station. Just thought, this is phenomenal. I've found a right bunch of reprobates and scallywags, and these are my people. I love it. And I was just like, well, okay, job well done. Having a beer. I thought, do you know what? I'm going to take pictures of these, and I'm going to tweet Adam. And I just said, you dedicated your book to all the makers of the world. Now, this is just our way of saying thank you. And just put my phone down, just forgot. And then I'm just watching, I don't know, wrestling or something, and just having a few beers. Phone dings, and it's Adam Savage tweeted back, it must be a little bit dusty in here right now. I think he got a little bit misty. And I was like, holy shit, what in the world? And then, because of Maker Central, I think you just meet people who that you're just going to be friends with for a very long time. And one of those is Patty, that's in the group, amazing seamstress and teacher and stuff. And I was like, I'd love to come to New York and visit. It's been on my bucket list. I didn't have a holiday at that point for 25 years. I've never been anywhere. And she's like, yeah, you could come over, I think, just flippantly. And I was just like a limpet. Really? I was like, I could come for like a week. And she's like, yeah, no probs.
Didn't know what she let herself in for.
No. I was like, and I was like, what about 2 weeks? Yeah, that's fine. What 3 weeks? And I ended up going for 4 weeks. And then she got a job actually doing a thing for Comic-Con. And actually, I had tickets for us to go. And it was one of those stand and repeat things, and you're asking questions and stuff. And there was pictures there with Matthew Broderick being like, because me and her like made this thing, like got to sleep at like 5 a.m. Then we had to be back up at 7:30. to take it to the place, and we were like zombies, just like. But then there's pictures of Matthew Broderick and all these other actors that were being interviewed, like in front of it. I was like, that's amazing. And then somebody had told me that the Adam Savage was actually going to be at the Anime Festival, which was like a couple of days later in New York, and they were just doing the tickets. And then somebody let me know that actually there's tickets available now that you can meet him. And one of the Maker friends actually knew Kristen, who's like one of the his right-hand person kind of thing, and saying, "Oh, if you can get the book to us, we'll get him to sign it." But then I managed to get a ticket to be able to meet him. So there was pictures of me and him, and he's looking at the book, and he does like a weird like signature, like with an equational mathematical thing. And then you can actually see it just behind me here. Like on the sign, I got everybody's logos. I've actually done another bit. I don't have it here, but I've got everybody's signatures that I've scanned, and then I've laser etched into different bits. So this needs to be finished, and it's going to have like LEDs like in here, so it's all going to be backlit. I'm going to put like the silver,
like that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean that's it. That was the first one. That was the prototype. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll have these raised up a little bit, so there'll be LED strips like behind it to kind of backlight it. There's going to be lights like within the lettering. I'll use the silver like electrical tape in there for reflection and stuff. And there's all these little added little borders that I've got going on, and that's going to go across there. So it's just like this weird domino effect of just buying the book. Because the book wasn't meant to arrive till after I came back from Maker Central, but it came early. If the book hadn't have come early, that part of my life, that story wouldn't have happened. You know, of getting the book, meeting all these people, getting all the signatures. You know, even going to I went to Maker Camp in the Catskills, Jimmy's thing, but the Blackthorn. You know, I met Jimmy, ended up at his house, and that to me is just like, I was watching his videos a couple of days ago, and now I'm in the guy's house. This is weird.
Did he know you were there, or did you manage to
well,
speak back out?
I'm quite a big deal, so he knew I was there. Yeah. No, because the first one I met, it was Derek and
Derek
Jimmy
from Malvern.
Yeah, two big burly guys. You don't feel as manly when you meet those kind of two. You're just kind of like, hello, you know, just kind of like. Brr.
I think Derek was the only other person who I had B&B of, other than John D. Harvey.
Yeah.
Walking around Maker Central, I'm like,
Yeah. Well, like with Derek, I was in the bathroom at the Hilton bar, just having a pee. And then you just feel this presence walk past you, and it was Derek. So I'm just like drying my hands, and just really slowly, just kind of like, when he was stood right there having a piss, I was like, "All right, Derek." It's like, but when I met him again at the Catskills, he remembered me, because the last thing he said to me when I was leaving, he said, "I'll see you in the bathroom at Maker Central next time." I was like, sounded a bit weird, but okay. But even like that was just an experience, you know, up there, just meeting Jimmy, and just, you know, I think I met his mum, Jimmy's mum, and his brother and stuff, and I got Jimmy's mum to sign the book as well. I've got the whole clan, and his brother John. I got him to sign. Thank you. Yeah, it was great. It was, although I got really drunk on the Saturday night because they were doing like IPA, and there's like, how much is a half? They were like $1.70. I was like, oh my god! But then I didn't eat all day. And apparently I was just shouting at people just in the room above me because they were moving about too much, telling them to shut up. And they're like, you do know it's going to be you, because there's only 2 English people actually at the event, me and Steve. That's a good point. That's a good point.
I mean, I've got fond memories of being in the Hilton bar with you. I think I don't know how far gone you were at that point, but we were chatting Marvel and all sorts for probably the best part of 45 minutes, I think.
I have no memory of that.
Yeah, it does not surprise me, because I remember the following day when there was like you and James and a couple of the other guys who were very, very, very struggling that morning.
Well, you helped save my life that day when you gave me that protein shake thing with the mid with
the
oats.
bottle of fuel.
Yeah. And then Terry gave me this like Norwegian like Kit Kat like thing, and then Dan Brent, he just kind of screeched up on his little mobile and just gave me some chocolate Tim Tams. I was like, "You fucking legends! I'm dying here. Yeah, just give me some sugar and some chocolate." But then you go to the bar and you have a few more beers and you feel all right.
Pretty much.
But it was, that was a good couple of days. It was just, I think Tim, I just don't think he stopped drinking from like Friday to Sunday.
Pretty much. I mean, I saw him on the Friday, and he was pretty far gone Friday night. Yeah, I mean, I think that second Makers Central for all the people who'd, kind of like scratched the surface first year and then came back second year, because like I was only there for the days on the first year, and then the second year I was like we'd got out the week after the Makers Central the first year, as we were sort of like chatting to other people and seeing what was online. It's like, there's so much that I missed in the evenings, and my wife basically said, if it happens next year, book the hotel, be there for the full event, be there for the evenings and stuff. And that was how I ended up sharing a room with Dan Brent. It was that sort of like booking the hotel, and then Dan was like, I'm coming over from Australia, so I need to find a hotel. And I was like, well, if you get stuck, there's bunk in with me. Right, deal. I'll be there. Shit, well, let me something for.
Yeah, because I remember like meeting him, and I think one of the first things he did was stick one of the duck stickers just on my head. It was just like what's going on there, because I didn't know who he was. And then when I had a look at the sticker, I was like, "Oh, you're that guy that nobody likes."
Well, so I got to the Premier Inn, and poor Andy Pugh up there had the fantastic task of driving Jake the Maker Monster and Dan Brent from Heathrow.
Yeah.
So by the time Andy got there, they'd spent about half an hour on the phone to me, driving around all the roundabouts in Birmingham and around the NEC, trying to find where the Premier Inn was. And they finally got there.
We spoke to several security guards and NEC operatives. Like, how do we get to the Premier Inn? Oh, go down that way. You go down that way. And it's just like barrier after barrier after barrier. Then driving around in circles. It was just like, at one point somebody said, "Oh, it's just there. If you jump over the fence, like, do we look like we're going to jump over a fence in a car with a pile of luggage here?"
Well, I remember I was at my hotel, and there was a few, I think people had said, "Oh, meet us at the bar at the Hilton." I was like, "Yeah, no problem." So I'm just like sat in the hotel room, not hear anything, going, "Why am I waiting? Why don't I just go on my own? I'm sure there's going to be people there." So I get in the taxi, and I got a Hilton, please. He's like, "Which one?" I was like, "Pardon?" It's like, "Which Hilton?" He's like, "Is there two?" Oh shit! So I'm like messaging Sophie and stuff, and she came back to me like quite quickly because I could tell him Metropole or something like that.
Yeah.
And I mean, so I just like, I didn't know what to expect, because as I was walking up thinking, "Oh, this is quite quiet," and then just went in, and there was groups of people just like all planted around, and people slowly started coming in. But yeah, I just didn't know what the carnage. I mean, I'll talk to anybody about anything. I'm not really that bothered. You can plonk me in any situation. I went to America. I'm talking to high-level lawyers. I talked to a music producer who produced David Bowie and stuff. I was chatting to him about a Metallica project he was working on and stuff. And I was talking to a guy, some oil kind of baron guy, who's got this. We ended up at this penthouse suite just off Central Park in this like $10 million penthouse. I'm like, I don't think this is a real slice of New York that I'm experiencing. Like, yeah.
You've definitely got a habit of finding your way into really weird situations.
Yeah, but I love it. So things that have happened like in my life, as a chef and stuff, things would always be like really random situations, but quite funny stories at the end of it. Things kind of happened in life, like when my dad passed away, and I kind of like was hidden away for like a decade. So I'd not really got stories and stuff. I mean, I was still working, but I just didn't go out. I was just like a hermit. I was just like in my own little bubble because things had just fallen apart. Like my dad passed. But when I do go out, just the strangest things just happen. Just people just gravitate like weirdos, on the bus or something. It's just I don't know. It's my natural musk just attracts them or something.
You're a sci-fi Bill Bailey.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's just weird. I mean, I will talk to anybody. I'm quite capable of speak to people, on whatever level that they want to, like talk on and stuff. I mean, so just at this party on New Year's Eve, and there's, just hanging out by the crudités and stuff, and they're like, "Oh, what do you do?" It's like, "Oh, I'm a music producer." "Oh, cool." And then like we're patting. He's like, "It's actually quite a big deal." I was like, "Really? Oh, cool." He said, "Yeah." So I ended up. He's like, "So what kind of music are you into?" It's like, "Yeah, it's like Metallica and stuff." And he's like, "All right. Oh, that's nice. I might be working and doing something like with Metallica." I was like, pardon me? I think we need to sit down and have a chat. Yeah, he produced like the last 2 David Bowie albums and stuff, and it was just like, I was like, you don't get this in Leeds. Oh, there's it. So I go to this party. I think I've been in New York for like a couple of days, end up at this party, and we're talking to friends of friends, and there's this woman, and she was like this super Brooklyn kind of like based, kind of Jewish lady, very rough around the edges, call a spade, doesn't really give a shit and stuff. Talking to her, and then her husband sits down, and he's like, "Yeah, I'm in the movie business." So I'm like, "All right, have you worked on anything, that I know of?" He says, "Oh yeah, I've just done a film with Steven Spielberg." I was like, "For fuck's sake, come on, really?" I mean, you just don't get that in Leeds, do you? Chatting to somebody who's worked with Metallica and then somebody who's just worked with Steven Spielberg, and I'm like, good God, I've got to go home to my normal life. Just after, yeah. I mean, I love it. That's it. I mean, I fell in love with the place. I mean, it's like hadn't had a holiday in 25 years. A bit of a recluse. Most of the time, I don't really like people because they're just annoying. Oh, he's back. But I went to really.
Another cat invasion on the podcast.
Audio listeners, yeah. Phil's face is now covered by a cat's tail.
Yeah.
Or rather, the camera is covered by a cat's tail.
Oh, I mean, all he knows, I'm just sat here talking to myself, isn't it?
Or talking to him.
You're talking to him, yeah. So yeah, I mean, I kind of really acclimatized to New York like almost immediately. I just fell in. The thing is with me is that I'm very sensitive to noise. I don't know if I'm maybe on the spectrum or something. I'm just really noise like sensitive. So I mean, the thing that really kills me is like I've got tinnitus, and it's lucky I can actually kind of sort of go in and out of it. It's not one of those things that's constantly just like buzzing. It's like that kind of waspy thing is always, but I'm so thinking of going to New York, it was going to be maybe too much like for me, but I just loved the ambient, like the whole like 360 everything, because you've got all the noise bouncing off all the buildings, but you've also got the subways like rattling underneath you and stuff. It's all encompassing,
Yeah, so, sometimes it's like if you've got enough in such a varied amount, it's like people like us who that kind of issue with audio processing. Sometimes you need more noise to cancel out smaller noise. If you're in a crowd with enough people that you can pick out 3 or 4 different conversations at the same time, it's enough to distract you. But if you go too far, so you've got 10, 15, 20 conversations all at the same time, it's enough to drown out the background so you can focus on that one then, isn't it?
Well, I'm kind of like, so if you and I were at a bar and the bar was quite busy, I'd have I can hear everything going on, but I'd have difficulty hearing what you're saying. It's like I take in like everything. It's just this weird kind of like it's just wide open, like I could just hear everything going on. I think that's why I like doing the audio show.
Yeah.
Just all the different sounds.
I have that issue. I had my hearing tested. Going back into the early noughties, I noticed that every year there's a classic experiment done with kind of sort of 12-year-old, 13-year-olds demonstration, where you take a signal generator and a loudspeaker, and you show them with normally an oscilloscope as well. So you show them the range of human hearing. So it's normally for a 12-year-old, it's going to be 20 hertz to 20,000 hertz.
Mm-hmm.
So anything above or below that, they're not going to hear. And over the course of several years, I noticed that mine was getting worse. So I think one year it was like 15,000. I knew it was already sort of damaged. My teenage years were the 80s. We had school discos, and it was the thing to stand next to the loudspeakers and see how much your ears were ringing at the end of the night. And if they were still ringing the next morning, that was even better night.
Yeah, I saw Metallica in '92, and I was deaf for 2 days.
And yeah, I've spent time playing with things that go bang and things.
And just general progression of life does that as well. And
age, yes.
I was trying to be kind that time.
So I noticed over a couple of years, kind of, it was like 1 year it was like 15,000, and I mean I sometimes used to, depending on the class, I'd get to kind of 15,000, I wouldn't be able to hear it, so I'd just crank the amplitude up, and they'd all be going mad about kind of having suddenly this really loud noise. And then the next year it was like, hang on, 14,000. I'm sure it was 15,000 last year. And the following year, it was like, after kind of sort of 3 years, I kind of went to my GP and said, look, I know this isn't proper audio equipment, but it's been the same equipment for the last few years, and my hearing has dropped. So he said, okay, fair enough, I'll send you for audiology tests. So after a bit of a wait, went off to the audiology department, to the local hospital. They did a series of tests and came back and said, you've got significant hearing loss at high frequencies, and that will not, that's not going to recover, but it should not affect your everyday issue. It's just too high a frequency. I said, well, I've been getting, I can't go to a pub and have a conversation with anyone. And basically said, well, you've got auditory processing issues. So it's not actually your hearing, but it's your processing of that.
Mm-hmm.
And I've actually been reading something recently, because the conversation that we had with Ali from Geeky Fayot, is just one of many where I kind of started to kind of think, maybe I've got sort of ADHD tendencies.
The three of us are definitely very, very pronouncedly on the spectrum.
And one of those, I know I'm on autistic spectrum as well, but one of the symptoms that I've kind of sort of often crops up for people with ADHD is that inability to process individual conversations.
Mm-hmm.
So I find it very difficult to focus on one conversation. Like I say, I'm constantly hearing the other people talking about other things, and it's just I can't isolate that single conversation.
You need these for everyday life, don't you? Just to plug a mic on the person that you're speaking to then just get that conversation.
On noise cancellation they need to have noise cancellation microphone as well. So it's just
lots of pairs of socks in your pocket to just stuff in everyone else's mouths when they're
shut up, I'm trying to talk. Yeah.
It's interesting. My father-in-law is a similar sort of thing. Like, he grew up farming, and a lot of things that were lab machinery and equipment and stuff like that. And he's lost the frequency band that is the average female voice, and it's a really common thing to have happen. But you lose, rather than losing the full top end, you lose a band lower down. So he literally had to get a note from the doctor to bring home to his wife, to my mother-in-law, to basically sort of say, look, it's not that he's ignoring you. He literally had, we've tested his hearing, and this band, which is like the average woman's speech vocal range, is where his hearing stops. If you change your pitch or your timbre,
which is a blessing if she was a bit of a nag.
But this is the thing. So sometimes we'll have a conversation with him, and if you are a little bit higher frequency, he's got to sort of stop and process. With hearing aids and stuff now to kind of compensate for that. But I find if I'm talking to him, I'll say something, and if he doesn't kind of react straight away, I can see him trying to process. I'll say it again, but with a slightly deeper voice, and it straight away, he's
You sound like super sexy when you're talking to him because you've got to go real low.
I mean, I always do, don't I? Yeah.
Oh yeah, I mean, I'm pitching a bit of a tent right now. Oh, I had this idea, and I thought I can't do it because I was just going to say I'm just going to go grab a beer, and I was going to have no trousers, so you're just going to see my ass until I walked off. But come back with trousers on. I was like, oh no, I bottled it. I was like, no, I can't do it. I thought it'd been quite funny if I just got over just a bare ass just walking away. I bottled it.
I mean, me and Andy would have had to do the same. So
yeah, I mean that's just a prerequisite when you said pants are optional for the show.
Yeah, which podcast? There was a podcast that was a thing on, wasn't it? Which podcast was that?
Not sure.
Oh. Trying to think. There's been so many podcasts. That's the problem.
I was thinking about maybe starting one, but not like a maker one, but just a geeky one, just like people like in the maker community, but just people like talk about movies or comics or something like that. I mean, there might be even people that are into like collectibles, and stuff like that.
Oh, definitely will be.
Why not?
But
go for it.
I haven't got the time. You see, I even came up. So I was thinking of this this idea for like another show. If I was able to do one, it'd be like a mixture of kind of like Jumanji mixed with Princess Bride, and it would be like a big book of stories. It'd be like a granddad reading these stories to his grandson, but there'd be like a different adventure. So it might be a little bit never-ending story, kind of thing. But there'd be all these different stories, but the person involved, it's going to be the granddad story. It's actually him in, all the stories. Where it means that, like I got the idea because I was going through all the music for the show. When I put the music on, the good thing about music, it can invoke an emotion, or especially when I'm in the show, I'm trying to put the music in for the scenes. So I'm actually, got these visions of stuff. So I put this one on, and in my head, there's like something like Never-Ending Story when the young kid's on his horse, riding through, and there's all this kind of operatic music. There's all these amazing vistas, and there might be dragons and stuff. And I was just going through the music, and every one was like just a different scene in my head. There's dragons and wizards and warlocks and cave monsters and vampires and werewolves and ghosts and goblins and all this kind of stuff. I thought it could be quite like a nice anthology of like stories. But I think I just need to be cloned 2 or 3 times to, be able to make it.
I'm working on it. I'm working on that and the time machine. I think the time machine should be ready around December 1976, I think.
Right, nice. I like how you did that. Well, there's that story, isn't there? What's his name? Hawking, when he put on the party for time travelers, because they would have known about it in the future and nobody turned up.
Yeah.
It's like they're either just very shy or they're just, socially a bit awkward.
Or something it's like really catastrophic happened.
Yeah, or we're just all dead in the future.
That's it happened. It's like the future past tense. Happens.
Yeah, well, I've been watching like like I said, I'm not really into podcasts. I don't, which is weird because I'm on one at the moment. I generally just don't like listening just to people just sat down having a chat. I'd rather just listen to an audiobook and a story or something. Because I think when people are having a conversation, you've got to be more concentrate on it. So if I'm in the workshop or something, I find I just stop. I'm not doing it because I'm listening to the conversation. I can't do both at the same time. But if I'm listening to maybe an audiobook or music or something, that you can just go like in the periphery kind of like thing. But I listen to a bit of like Joe Rogan because that's on YouTube, and he'll have somebody, talking about quantum mechanics and biologists and stuff, and it just some of the stuff that they talk about just blows my tiny little mind. It's just talk about quantum mechanics and classical mechanics and the other worlds theory, and now the kind of well, I mean, I'm trying to like learn about all this because I want it to be kind of part of the show. There's something happening in episode 6, and then because this episode was just going to be just a one. We go down to the planet. It's just going to be a one-off, and it's now going to be a trilogy of episodes. But because the story just took me there, I don't know. I don't have time to put it all in one. I've got too many ideas and it just kept going and going. But episode 7, and I mean, I've spoken to Chris about this, and there's a new character coming into it. And if I can't really figure it out at the moment because it involves quantum computers and some. I can't say too much.
What it sounds like you're saying is that you need someone with a bit of a physics background to really sort of make, sense of.
Maybe a little bit. Yeah, maybe a little bit. Well, it's kind of like they were saying that the human brain somehow works on a kind of a quantum level, but then there's other people saying, yeah, but quantum computers can only work at minus 262 degrees. So how can the human brain work on a quantum level? And then I'm looking at, so there's the different theories now saying that when they used to say universe, that was everything, all encompassing our universe. That's it. There's no more. Now there's the theories of the multiverse. There's more than one universe. There's many universes. That there's more than one Big Bang. There could be a Big Bang that's happening right now. It's just in the universe that it's outside the universe that we can see.
Mm-hmm.
And the bit that got me the other day was nothing can travel faster than light. But then they said, but nothing can travel faster than light in space, but space can move faster than light. So space, the universe is actually expanding faster than light. So there's some light out there that we'll never see because space is growing. But then there could be other universes. And in those universes, there could be different their laws of physics might be completely different.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just kind of, right.
Yeah, it is mind-blowing.
Yeah,
I remember, probably 20, 25 years ago now, talking about, kind of universal theory and relativity and all the kind of the stuff that you would do at that kind of sort of preteen kind of age, and discussions of we know that the universe is infinite, but what we've actually discovered is that it's about 8 times more infinite than we originally thought. Sorry, can you just run that one by me again? How can something be 8 times more infinite than you originally thought? How that doesn't compute.
Doesn't compute, does it? No. It's when they start
redefining a word.
It's when they start throwing numbers at you as well, and they go, you know that there's 2 trillion galaxies in the universe. It's like that is a number I just can't comprehend. It's just and then there's God how many planets and suns and whatever going involved. That's why the whole theory of there being other life. But they said, well, if we are the only life, but if we are the only life, and this is where quantum mechanics comes in, it's all about the wavelength, and when you interact with the wavelength, it changes. So there's a theory that came out in the 1960s when the guy said, but we're also quantum with that theory, because we're made of the same particles, the same atoms. So when we're interacting with something, we're interacting on a quantum level, but that's the interaction with the wavelength. So if we're interacting with the universe and it's changing because of us, then maybe the universe is only here because we're interacting with it, because it's changing.
You start then getting into things like the universe being a computer simulation, or you start getting into those kind of prepositions that are getting outside the realm of what we understand of science or religion or anything like that. We're getting into those things where nobody has the answers, and it's only a best guess.
It's kind of weird when you've got all these indigenous populations, the Aborigines in Australia, then you've got, ones from South America, and you've got the shamans, and you've got the people in Egypt, and they're all on these mind-bending, crazy drugs, all natural, but they're all seeing the same shit. Mm-hmm. It's like, are they being taken to another galaxy or another dimension, interacting with all these beings? Is there,
is it just the biochemistry of the plant matter mixing with the biochemistry of the human brain? Is it just the fact that we're all the same species?
Yeah, I mean, they're all. I mean, I think when you go into these things, you take a lot of stuff that's involved, like in you, into those things. Mm. But all these different cultures are all seeing the same entities and stuff like that. It's there's like the ayahuasca and stuff like that. I mean, there's one of the most powerful psychedelics, and we actually create it. Well, they say we create it in our own body. Our brain, and they say maybe our liver creates it. It's in loads of plants and stuff like that. But we have an inhibitor, like in our intestines, that breaks it down. It's just
well, yeah. I mean, ayahuasca is DMT. There's an author called Clifford Pickover who did a book called Sex, Drugs, Einstein and Elves, which is
it's the mechanical elves. Yeah, it's the mechanical elves that people see.
Yeah, and it's this book discussing DMT and particularly ayahuasca, because it's a brew that people make.
Very potent.
And it's this kind of, like, if you were to ingest the DMT containing plant matter, you wouldn't actually ingest the DMT, because there's aspects of your digestive system that break down DMT before it can be absorbed into the bloodstream. So you have when they make this ayahuasca brew, this psychedelic tea soup type thing.
Yes.
The combination of the plants that are in it are things that change the digestive tract to stop it from breaking down the DMT, so that you can then actually absorb the DMT. So then, like, other cultures will then, instead of making the brew, because that brew might then make you sick or stuff like that, they'll then.
They always say, if you have the brew, that you do two things: you'll throw up and you'll shit yourself.
Yeah, exactly.
Sounds delightful. As long as it's not at the same time, I mean,
or while you're tripping.
Oh Jesus! I mean, I have had one of those two things, and I have witnessed there's just the craziest shit. It's unbelievable, really, the stuff that you see. But there's also sometimes that simulation thing that you were talking about. Mm-hmm. There was one point when I was doing it that I actually saw just a little thing just behind the curtain. Like there was like a little kind of laboratory or something just to the side on the peripheries, and it's an odd thing. It's like being shot out of a cannon being strapped to a rocket. Because there's other things out there where you just slowly ingest, and you're like, oh, this is quite nice, and oh, okay. This is like just being shot out of a magnum. It's just kind of like, hold on to your pants, because this shit's going to get real fast. It's kind of like, whoa. And I saw they call them jesters, but a lot of in different cultures they call them the kind of the natural kind of deities, and they're very mischievous and stuff. And I remember there was just one point where I was going to say goodbye to them, and it only lasts 15 minutes, something, 20 minutes, and it's all.
Is that your perception of it in the moment, or does it, is it actually
Oh no, I've done it where it felt like I was there for days, but I actually recorded myself. I put my phone on record, and it was 15 minutes, and it's just me going, oh, ooh. I can't remember for the life of me what I was saying, but I was having a good time. But there was a bit where there's all these jesters, and there was a massive carnival, and everybody's made out of neon fractals, and they're just having this great party. And I was saying to everybody, I'm so sorry, but I've got to go because there's other parts I want to see. And they were like, I don't give a fuck who you are. I just have a good time. I don't give a shit about you. If you're, just go, have fun. It's like they don't want any sympathy or anything. They're just happy that you're there, but there's just other stuff to see. It's just a crazy, crazy thing. But it also, this is a weird thing to say, but in all those years when I was a bit of a hermit and stuff, you do maybe lose a little bit of yourself, and that kind of like innocence and naivety of being young and creative and playful kind of disappeared. It slowly started to like come back through like doing this podcast and the maker community, and because I wasn't drawing and I wasn't doing anything like that, I was just chefing. But doing that substance put me back in touch with that feeling of being a kid again, and like the world is a dangerous and scary place, but it's also very, very full of life, and you can it's up to you in life what you want to take in. If you're willing to put out creativity and love and respect and all that kind of stuff, you'll get it back. But if you want to sit at home all negative and wound up about shit, and it's just an ever decreasing kind of, you like what do you call it, that guy in Lord of the Rings when she stabs him in the face and he just kind of like implodes. It's kind of like everybody can be the worst enemy, big time. There's nobody who can beat you up more than yourself.
Absolutely.
So if you're willing to,
your own biggest critic, aren't they?
Oh yeah. But if you're willing to put yourself out there and take a chance, and I think, especially like doing this podcast, it was just kind of like, fuck it, I've got nothing to lose. Let's just have some fun. Some people might even enjoy it. Who knows?
Well, you can see right here that do.
Yeah. I mean that's a good thing, really. It's kind of like, if anything, there's people that I know now especially like through the maker community, that are struggling, in life and stuff. And if I can just give just one little reason for there to be, a more positive outlook or a spin on stuff, and I'm more than happy to put the work in, and for that to, have that effect. I mean, there's been a few reviews up that have gone up like online, and I don't know who wrote it, but they just said the world is a better place for having this in it. I don't know if somebody who's in the show or somebody who's listened to it, I don't know, but that was such a lovely thing to read, that that even if it wasn't true, at least they they thought of it to write. So if I just see the whole thing of the show is just positive for me. There's no downsides, just apart from the time that I put in, but it's worth it. Yeah.
Well, like you said, I mean, there's a lot of people who in the maker community whose way of coping with the world is through making, and I know that there's a huge, my background is in IT, and there's a huge percentage of the IT community who, for them, making it is an outlet. You spend all day looking at screens and things, so to then go and use a tool and shape a piece of something that's, it's tangible, it's there, it's in your hands, and you're having an effect on that piece of material. That is their coping mechanism, and that's definitely, for me, it's a huge way of coping, is to learn something or try something or shape something, or and that kind of thing, and to be a part of something like this, where you're creating something. I don't have the time to do YouTube, and I don't feel like I've got the skills to do YouTube. From a video editing point of view or from a making point of view, there's nobody.
Well, we could disagree with that another time, but go on.
Yeah, but I mean, in terms of like making stuff, I know I can teach stuff. But I don't see myself having any legitimate place in doing a maker video. I don't think there's anything I could do that isn't learned from my peers who are doing something better. I would be a poor imitation of people I respect and look up to, in my view. But to do something like being involved with telling a story, or being involved in a podcast sharing the story of others like yourself, that gives me a wonderful outlet. And it's something that I'm forever grateful to Andy for inviting me to be a co-host who's talked all over him this evening and not letting get a word in edgewise. But it's that sort of thing of that is a really nice outlet for me then.
Well, I was watching, I think one of the latest videos with Adam Savage, going back to him, and he was saying that he was trying to find his way, like when he was younger, he was in New York, but he was doing a lot of sculpture, like loads of sculpture. Moved over from New York to California, San Francisco, I think.
Yeah.
And then he started working in theater and stuff like this. So he was like working more on like making all props and backstage stuff. Started working with Jamie, doing a lot of commercial work, special effects. But he said that he found that he was doing less and less sculpture, but he wasn't actually upset about it because doing all the work in like making all the special effects was scratching that itch. But so it doesn't matter that he had less time for one thing. He was still satisfied because he was still had something visceral and he was thinking of and working out problems and stuff. It was just a different because he doesn't do any more sculpture and stuff now. Because he used to, I saw some great stuff that he did. So it's kind of, I was always like growing up, my mum was like, right, well, you've got to get married and you've got to have kids and you've got to have a career and it's all got to be done quite young. And I found that just so overbearingly terrible, even just to think about. I mean,
it's a lot of pressure.
It is a lot of pressure. And just because you're doing it, just because you're getting married and having kids young doesn't mean you're going to be happy or you're going to find this eternal happiness in life just because you've done it. But for me, that was kind of like, no, just very free. I always used to joke that I was just the milkman's son because I was just so different to my parents and, my other siblings. Completely different, my outlook on life. I just walked in a bubble for 25 years, just doing my own thing, and I don't know if I have a different outlook on life that people have, but especially like when I've talked about before with my dad passing and stuff, I was a very broken individual and I had to kind of piece myself back together. And I think back in those times, I wasn't a very nice individual either. There was just that whole chef kind of mentality of bravado and, there was lots of drugs and alcohol. It's just that kind of thing that you just fell into with that.
It is a very stressful environment to be in as well. And
yeah, I think it's very toxic as well sometimes.
Yeah, a lot of chefs that I know have those coping strategies. It is that kind of there's got to be some release from that stress and that pressure.
Well, I went for a job interview when I was like 23. I went for this this trial shift, and within an hour, the head chef had offered me outside for a fight. I was shaving this parmesan, and he just went, "Yeah, it needs to go back in the fridge." I went, "I've just been told I need to shave it all." "Well, I've just told you it needs to go back in the fridge." I said, "Well, which one is it? Does it need to go back in the fridge?" He went, "Right, me and you outside." And I was just looking at this guy, and then he actually stormed off. He wanted to fight me, and I was just turned to this guy, and he went, "Oh yeah, he's off his face. He's just on speed, just all the time. He's doing these speed bombs in the kitchen just because he's just so tired, and it's just like he's just off his face. His face was just beet red." I was like, "Is this for real?" He's like, "Oh yeah, he's tried to fight all of us." I was like, "Yeah, I don't think I want to work here,
No, God no.
No, I was just like, yeah. And then he came back in and went, "You need to stay till 4 o'clock in the morning because you're going to help me do a deep clean." I went, "Actually, no, I don't." And I just went and got my coat and walked out. I was like, "Yeah, I don't want to work for that maniac." It's just like, well, that's some people that you do meet like in kitchens. And I think I was actually, when I was younger, turning into that machismo bullshit kind of like, I'm in charge, call me chef and stuff. And like, there's a time and a place for that kind of stuff. You see the guys like Tools of Tools, and you might post something thinking, "Oh, I might get some nice feedback," and then just someone calls you a knob or something straight away. It's kind of healthy ribbing in a way because people enjoy it.
Yeah, it's a very good way of keeping grounded. That's for sure.
Yeah, you can't get a big head in those chats, can you really? No. But when like Dad passed and just this bubble that I was in just shattered completely, just the world just became a very awful, awful place, and I hid myself away from it all. If I'm not around people, then they can't hurt me, or I can't be hurt, or I can't actually hurt anyone. I can't lash out at them. So friends disappeared. The wayside, and when I wasn't going out partying with people, I had nothing to offer them. So those are the people you realize weren't really your friends in the first place. So I kind of had to rebuild myself. Really sounds a bit cliche, but I had to kind of rebuild myself from the ground up. I was kind of like, what kind of person do I want to be? And I realized you'll get out of life what you kind of put into it. If you're generous, and creative and supportive, you'll get that back threefold.
Yeah, absolutely, reap what you sow.
But you've got to open yourself up to it, and that can be terrifying as well. That can be a really scary thing. So I mean, even like joining the Fools with Tools, there's a little bit of apprehension because I didn't know anyone. You don't know what the reception is going to be, and I'm not at the moment. I make stuff, I'm making these signs. I made your sign and stuff, but at the moment I'm just making the podcast. So I don't really post much like in the group now because I just don't feel it's, I'm not making stuff. People want to see.
I totally get what you mean.
You're just making a podcast instead.
Yeah.
This leads into a discussion about kind of, what does it mean to be a maker, and what does it mean? Does it have to be something that's substantial? Does it have to be three-dimensional? Does it have to be a physical object? That can it be something else? Can we be makers if we're artists? I mean, if the majority of stuff I've done this year has been drawing every day.
Yeah.
And every now and again I think, well, I should try and make other stuff. I'm back in the house today rather than Tinkerage, because the Tinkerage has got even messier than it was last week because I've been doing some stuff. Fixing things and doing sort of DIY things. And every now and again I kind of have those phases of thinking, am I a maker anymore? Have I fallen out of being a maker? And I kind of, it thrashes around in your brain. And if you're having a bit of a low spot, maybe things haven't gone well, and you're just in a bit of a mood, and you kind of maybe all sorts of things can happen that kind of put us in a slightly low place, and you kind of think, maybe I'm not, maybe I should just quit all the maker groups that I'm in, whatever. And you think, well, no, actually it's a form of making. We do have people that are in these groups. It's not just woodwork.
That's why I'm not really a fan of like labels. It's like, I'm sure there's people out there who love saying I'm a woodworker or I'm a metal worker and stuff. But for me, I'd like to just say I just create stuff. And one day it could be a sign, next day it could be something on the laser machine or on the lathe or on the CNC, or do some 3D printing or a podcast or whatever. I just created it. I don't want to, for me personally, just say, well, because I'm a bit of a jack of all trades and a master of none, as it were. I kind of like tinker.
Oftentimes better than a master of one.
I'd like to have lots of a collection of like skills, and be able to just dip into them, when needed. It's go, I think about doing this, but what if I also did this as well? And I want to do this, and then I get carried away and then realize it's like 20 times bigger than, and then I generally go, and then I go on to the next project, and everything's just like 35% done.
Well, I mean, this is the thing with the kind of the maker mentality, isn't it? As a core thing, it's solving problems, it's learning new skills, it's being confident enough to try something that you've not done before. Whether that's new tools, new techniques, new materials, and it's the willingness to fail and to learn.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that
because
that makes a maker.
If you do fail, if you do fail, you learn.
Absolutely, and it's that willingness to fail and learn. That completes that kind of set, and I think that is what makes a maker, not whether or not you give yourself the label of being a blacksmith or a metal worker or a seamstress or a woodworker or a 3D printist or whatever it is you're doing. It's like we've said before, making yourself some lunch is still making yourself some lunch.
Well, it's like when I put
sandwich.
When I put my first video out, which I still need to do the second part like 2 years later, I'm making a Freddy Krueger glove, but that's kind of like okay, so there's people out there, you've got like, I like to make stuff. It's instructional. I'm going to stand in front of a camera, I'm going to talk to you, and I'm going to tell you how I'm making it. And I like Bob's videos because, you know, you might get a home renovation and you might get him making some kind of He-Man prop or something because he's a super nerd, you know. Yep. But then, you know, it depends what you want to watch. You can watch Blackbeard, doesn't talk, he just make it. And you can follow along or whatever, and I find that awesome. I love that. But I was like, oh, what do I want to make? What would I like to see? I was like, all right, well, why don't I have a workshop AI that talks to me in there? And I mean, so the idea was that I've got my Glowforge laser machine. Accidentally spilled some water. It's very like the film Electric Dreams. When she spills water on the computer and it becomes sentient. But it's like I accidentally spill water on the Glowforge. There is a thunderstorm like going on. Serendipity, lightning hits the workshop. The Glowforge becomes sentient. But then there's a localized like internet network within the workshop. So I have an Alexa that I, you know, for music. I've also got the cameras for security. So this like entity, this thing was going to like wake up inside the Glowforge, and then because it's like a localized internet connection, was going to hack into the cameras. So the cameras are her eyes, and then she takes over Alexa, and Alexa's her voice. And that's how, like in the workshop way, not the podcast, how Steve was born. Mm-hmm. So one day I just walk in and he goes, "Hello, Phil," and I, what in the sweet titty fucking Christ is going on here? And then there's and I actually started making that video, and then I made like the one with all the t-shirt changes when I've got all the Maker t-shirts, and
I love that video.
But that's part one. And somebody in the comments, I won't name names, just went, made a Maker video and you've not actually made anything. I was like, the amount of time it took me to make this video is probably the amount of time it took you to make 5. Yeah, fuck off. But I need to go back. And like do part 2. But yeah, I mean that's again part of the sci-fi thing where there was the this kind of maker community come involved and using their creative power to put all this dark matter into a Freddy Krueger glove so I can actually fight him, and taking the Freddy Krueger lullaby and actually having it engraved on the knives and taking the power of the song away from him and putting it like in the glove. Mm-hmm. I'm like, maybe I need to start smoking weed again. I don't know. It's been like 13 years. I think I just need to. My brain's just like all the time. It's like I think you need to calm down. But that's the kind of video. Yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right.
Build. You don't need the stimulation. You depressant of any sort. You just need to let it out.
Well, that's it. I mean, it's kind of like what's the kind of thing that I would like to see, and that is something that I would like to see. I don't necessarily like watching myself or anything, but you know, in the maker community, you know, there's so many people doing it. I think it also be quite hard to have quite a distinct voice, you know, that's different from others. But there's nobody really kind of doing maker videos with a narrative like in it, you know. Mm. Or maybe like now it could be different because I've actually got this sign here, like half of it filmed, and in that N8 is talking to me through the intercom. So it's kind of like the workshop could be like the holodeck, you know, on Star Trek. It could be just my time away. I just need to get away from stuff. So I'm still the captain, but I'm just in my workshop having a bit of a tinker and just making some shit. But it could be on a planet, or it could be on a holodeck, you know, some simulation thing. Because like in the video, N8, it's like Steve goes, N8 wants to speak. He sounds very mad. And like, he's always mad. And he's complaining because he's drunk all the beer. I'm like, why are you mad? Why you're a robot? Why are you drinking beer? Why are you mad? And it's just a stupid thing like that. But I mean, the way I look at it is kind of like make what you want to make. You know, like someone like Paul Jackman. I think he's fearless. He makes what he wants to make. Staring at the camera and eating a banana. Just for no reason whatsoever. Just making you just feel really a little bit seedy and a bit awkward and slightly aroused and going, I should be.
I mean, that's Paul Jackman in general, isn't it? Whether or not he's eating a banana.
Yeah. I mean, I met him a few times. Like I met him at Makers Central, and then I met him at Maker Camp, and he remembered me. I thought that's actually quite nice because he's taking the time to talk to you and stuff. He was quite edging away from me a little bit.
Well, this is what I was going to say. It's not necessarily stand out the fact that he remembers you, because you are a very memorable person. I think it would be quite difficult to not remember you. I think would be the bigger surprise.
Well, the thing is like, I don't know, because I'm obviously just me, and I'm just, from what I've just said in the past, it's like there's no point to kind of hide bits of me, like my geeky side or my openness to try new things and stuff within reason. But it's kind of like, just be yourself. And I think in that, if you embrace that, there was a thing that I heard, and I don't know where he got it from, but there was a Darren Brown thing. He said there's only two things in this world that you can control, and it's your own thoughts and your own actions.
Uh-huh.
You can't control anything else. You can try, but you can't control anything else. And once you realize that, the world becomes a bit simpler and a bit easier, because you're just concentrating on yourself and just doing your own thing. Like, if I say something, it's boring though, isn't it? But it's kind of like, you can try new things and just be just who you kind of like want to be. And if I say something and somebody goes, actually, I'm quite offended by that, I go, okay, well, thanks for telling me. Doesn't mean you're right, but you're offended. You just don't agree with what I'm saying, because I've got my own beliefs and stuff like that. Because otherwise you can just kind of pitter-patter around life, and especially in the world we're in now, you have to be so careful about certain things that you have to say or not say, rather. I mean, I'm not going to go out and say awful things, because that's not me. But I think just be true to yourself, and I think it can lead to just being a bit more chipper. I'm quite a chipper person anyway. So.
Well, that's the thing is, once you realise that, ultimately, we're a collection of cells on a rock flying through space at colossal speed or velocity, rather. And when it all, when entropy finally gets to where it's going, and we're just bits of nothing on a rock,
just worm food. Yeah.
None of it really matters. It's
no.
Enjoy your time while you're enjoying your time.
So it's like when we
Will Wheaton, isn't it? It's don't be a dick, and that's it.
Yeah, I've got a T-shirt that I nearly wore actually. I mean, not that I chose this especially and stuff, but I picked it up, and it just says "Be nice."
Yeah,
and it's quite a nice thing. Just be nice. Just don't be a knobhead. Just
I think that's it. You get this is something that's annoyed me with some of the kind of the sort of disinformation that's skirting around on social media, and the classic line that is used as a defence for sort of social media disinformation is freedom of speech.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, you're right. Yeah, you can't. Anyone can say anything they like. But,
freedom from repercussion is what they're after.
Yeah, and that's the thing. You can't have that freedom from repercussions. Yeah.
There's accountability as well, for whatever you say or whatever you do.
This is, from the service industry. The customer is always right.
That's bullshit.
Phrases like that thing. Like Andy mentioned before. The jack of all trades, master of none, is only part of the phrase. And it's the other stuff that's forgotten about. The whole the origins of the customer is always right is only half of the story. The whole the phrase of the customer is always right is only half of it, because it's the customer is only right in terms of their style and taste. And it's got nothing to do with their actions or their opinions or their demands or anything like that. It was that if the customer says, I would like this in fluorescent pink, please, it's not your job to say, no, you can't have that because that's going to be ugly. It doesn't mean that the customer can say, I want you to refund me this because I've decided it's rubbish. That's not the customer being right. There's still, you have to still have standards. You have to still have processes, procedures, and ways of dealing business and all the rest of stuff. That's not what the customer is right means as a phrase. It means that if the customer wants something that you think is going to be but ugly, it's their decision and their right to pick that is not your style. But it doesn't mean that they can legitimately be a dick to you.
I mean, I've had, like in a restaurant once, there was a waitress came downstairs, like crying and stuff, so I'm going to have to give a refund, like, to this guy. So I go up, he's eating his dinner, he's eating all of the food on his plate, and he wants a refund because it was disgusting. And he's just been an absolute horrible person to the waitress. And I was like, so what was wrong with it? It was disgusting, it was cold, and it was disgusting. Okay, but why did you eat it all? Why did you not send it back? It's like, well, it was here and I was hungry. Okay. I'm not really understanding. You've just eaten it all and now you want a refund. It's like, I don't really understand. And me and him just went backwards and forwards. I said, it doesn't make sense what you're saying. You've actually eaten the food. You're not giving me any evidence at all. And he was just, this poor girl came down, was just in absolute tears. There's just no need for that kind of attitude. If you're having a bad day, you don't take it out on other people.
Exactly.
That's it. There's like I say, just be nice. It doesn't really take much, and you never know that action of you, that interaction that you've just had with somebody, could have a very positive effect on their day. I mean, I saw my neighbour the other day, and he's in a bit of a bad way. He's old. He's just being diagnosed with Alzheimer's and some other stuff, and he was just stood there, and he was just looking just a little bit, phased out, and with dementia and stuff. And I was just like talking to him, and as soon as I started talking to him, he just seemed to like come back to himself, seemed to center himself, and we had a nice little chat. Eric and his little dog. And he just seemed to be really chipper. I think in that moment, he just needed somebody to snap him out of it. He'd gone somewhere where he didn't know where he was. And then me just going over and talking to him. Because I think he's great. I mean, he's like fed my cats when I was like, in America and stuff. He's a great little guy. He's hilarious. Him and his wife. Do you remember, I think it's the film Never-Ending Story, when there's the big white dragon, furry dragon. And there's the two little, like, I think it's Billy Crystal plays one of the characters, and there's just arguing, just old, like, pixies or something like that, always just arguing, but they're just a great duo. That's Eric and his wife, Jean. The names that he calls her when I'm like at the door or something, she's shouting at him and he's shouting at her, and it's like something from Morecambe and Wise or something. It's like it's so funny. But yeah, like I say, I mean, just me going over to him and just talking to him because I saw him in a bit of distress. I think that, made a difference.
Little kindnesses, isn't it? Just little things where you can just improve a situation for the sake of...
Well, it's kind of like... I don't know where I saw this, but somebody was saying, if somebody sees somebody fall over, like in town or something, they're more likely are going to get the phone out to film it than actually help the person.
Yeah. Because
they want likes or views or whatever. But that is just like, how did you get to that thought of, I need to take a video of this person, being hurt or falling over, rather than going, do you need a hand? Are you okay?
Well, if you help that one person, you've only got one person's gratitude, haven't you? Whereas if you post it online and get 1,000 likes on Reddit or Facebook or whatever, you've got 1,000 people who like what you've seen. And
but then you're a scumbag.
But it's about status. In fact, I've heard a really interesting talk podcast earlier this week, and it's talking about how many of the things that we do are driven by a pursuit of status in some way, whether that's money or actually sort of going into debt in order to get that BMW or that particularly nice house or whatever. But I suspect that something like that, taking that piece of video, we've got this technology, we've got this kind of way now, we've got this sort of social media aspect to life, and if you take something and you get more likes and you get that dopamine hit of more and more likes, that increases your sort of status, and it's not healthy.
No.
B, it leads to people being dicks, and it's not good
Although
for society.
I did read this news story, which I wish that I could see a video of, that this mountain lion attacked this woman's kid, and this woman grappled the mountain lion and fought the mountain lion.
Yeah, 5-year-old.
I'd love to see a video of that. It's like when you see a guy and he punches a kangaroo, and you're like,
I love that video.
It's like, what the fuck? You've got balls of steel. I mean, I'm glad somebody picked up a camera for that, because that's just awesome. But
because the kangaroo was attacking the dog, wasn't it? And he just went over and clocked it square in the jaw.
Yeah, and the kangaroo's taller than him as well, and he punches it right in the face. I'm like, yeah, and it's like with a big ball bag as well. It's, my God, look at the size.
Yeah,
just
kangaroos are something else. It comes to kind of muscle, and well, they're Australian for starters, isn't it? So I mean that
so they're bound to try and kill you at some point.
Yeah.
Yeah, eat you or bite you. I mean, there was an episode of The Mighty Boosh when he fights a kangaroo, and that is just one of the funniest things like ever. Howard Moon. It's just like, because they are fierce animals as well. Yeah. I mean, the adrenaline that's running through your body whilst you're running towards a kangaroo, and then just to have the ball to punch it in the face. It was like, fair dues, man. I think he earned a brew.
The stunned look on the kangaroo's face of like,
yeah.
But a mate of mine grew up in South Africa, and was born in what was Rhodesia back then. It's now Zimbabwe. And he said that there's tribes around that area in southern Africa who they know the kind of the psychology of the animals. So you'll have like a pride of lions that will take down like a caribou or something, and these guys will then see that, and they'll just walk in, like 2 or 3 of them just carrying a spear, and they'll just walk straight in. Balls of steel, complete confidence, just walking up towards the lions. And this is the, pride of lions who've just taken down this other animal.
Mm-hmm.
The amount of raw strength and power and ferocity in these animals. Yeah. And these, like 3 blokes will just walk up towards the animal, hack off a leg, and then walk away. And the lions just kind of like, they don't know what to do. They just kind of like, these guys must be really, really serious if they're just going to walk up to us like we're no threat, take some of our lunch that we've just got, and then walk. We'll let them do it. It's just like
that's apex predator right there, isn't it? That's kind of like, holy shit. Okay.
Absolutely, like you say, it's just that moment of if you've got that adrenaline, you've got that determination there to be able to just, this is what I need to do, and then go and do it. It's it's the walking into a site with your clipboard and your high vis vest, even though you're not meant to be there. If you look like you are meant to be there, you'll generally be let in. It's your social engineering for the animal kingdom sort of thing.
There's that Darren Brown thing where he's gone into like Buc-ee's and he'll put a bet on, and he used to do it like on the dog tracks and stuff, and he'll go to someone which dog is going to lose, and he'll want the one that came in last, and he'll take the ticket to the cashier, and he did this like slamming thing like on the counter and go, that's the winning ticket, and like 70-80% of the time they'd pay him out because it just he's gone into jewelers and he's given them money, but it's just blank, and they've taken it, just blank paper.
Yeah.
They've taken it, and he's bought like an expensive ring and stuff. It's just he bypasses, he kind of like hacks the brain. He was saying there was one thing when he was out in the town or something, and this guy was obviously just cruising for a fight, and And like I think Darren said, he'd been like working out, he's strong, he could have maybe handled himself. But he says all he did was, and this guy came up to him and was calling him the C word and all this kind of stuff. He just said, my neighbor's wall is a bit taller than the one I've got outside my front door. And this guy was just so shocked because he was like, hang on, hang on, I wanted to fight him, but now he's talking about the wall outside his house. Yeah. And it frazzled his brain. And he said he ended up just sat, on the side of the road with this guy because he knew there's something else going on, and he just helped him out a little bit. But this guy was trying to lash out, but he just rewired his brain a little bit, and it was like, it snapped him out of it.
It's surprising how often that kind of works. It's just like sort of back in my past of looking into that kind of stuff, and it's saying that one of the good ways of practicing is if you go to like a cafe where they've got the specials of the day or something like that. It's something about like the deli type thing where you've got like the bench seating and stuff. So there's usually somewhere for an extra person to sort of sit. And they're saying you sit down, you wait for the server to come over and start explaining what's going on, and oh hi, I'll be serving you today. Here's the daily specials, and they're going just by rote, just reciting the stuff that they know from memory.
Yeah,
your brain goes out of this kind of conscious thought mode and into like subconscious processing mode, and that's a perfect opportunity then to stop them dead in the tracks, get them into like a secondary process mode where they're then trying to work out where they were in their list of things. Did they get to the fourth special, or were they still on the third special? And in that moment, you can slip a command in.
Suggestible.
Yeah, and they're saying like if you do that, you can go into a cafe and be chatting, be sat at the table, and someone will come over and they'll start explaining the specials, and you can go stop, sit, and in that moment where they hear the stop and they're like, oh shit, where was I? But their brains heard the command of sit, and they'll just sit down with you. And there's that kind of moment of hang on, why am I sat down? And you see Darren Brown do that kind of thing quite a lot. It's that just being able to sneak through into that kind of
one of the
brain to control the functions.
Yeah, one of the ones that I heard him say is like if you're on the bus or on the train and you've got like a seat next to you, it might be quite full, and someone's going to sit next to you and you don't want them to. You just, whoever's coming towards you, and you look at them in the eye, you just pat the seat and you smile. I'm like, there's no fucking way I'm sitting next to that guy. He's going to wear my head he's going to be wearing my head as a hat in a couple of hours. You just wouldn't, would you? You're like, I'll stand, I'm all right. No, thanks. I mean, I saw him live like years ago, and it was just incredible. It's just like I looked at actually seeing if I could go watch him when I was in New York. It was $400 a ticket. I don't like him that much. Yeah, it was on Broadway. But you're not that good. But I find all that stuff like fascinating. I mean, the devotion and the time that he's put into his skills.
And he calls himself a magician.
Yeah. Yeah, and he'll quite happily out, all these people in America, these evangelists and mediums and stuff like that. It's just a trick. It's just a trickery. It's something that's been going on for a very, very long time. And he's just like,
he's a very, very good showman.
He really is. Yeah, I think he's slowed down a lot. He's not doing as many shows and stuff. It must be quite difficult, to keep up that level. But the one I saw, somebody shouted out in the crowd, and he said, "If you shout again, I will make you piss the bed for the rest of your life." And it's like, fair enough. I don't think he shouted out again.
That beats like the comebacks Alan Carr puts out, yeah.
Oh yeah. I remember I went to go see this hypnotist years ago, and my friend got hypnotized. And it was in the interval in the middle, and he said he made him believe that he had eyes on the end of his fingers, like he was an alien. So he was just walking around the crowd like this, just looking at people. and he had just no memory of it, like at all. It was quite interesting. It's one thing I'd actually thought about maybe going to see more like stage shows, not like musicals, but just like seeing more shows. I mean, I saw the Mighty Boosh live; they were very good because you get the whole crowd. What did he say now? I'm going to have to use the C word here, so get the censorship button ready. Somebody shouted out in the crowd, and Noel shouted out, "Have you been possessed by a cunt?" And yeah, they didn't shout out after that either. But I do love a good heckle, I must admit.
Yeah, Jimmy Carr has a whole section on it, doesn't he, where he gets the crowd heckling and does all the put downs and stuff.
Well, he did a thing recently.
Yeah, Jimmy Carr, not Alan Carr. Yeah,
Jimmy Carr. Yeah. There's they do the roasts and stuff, and he actually, the first season that they did it, when it was just comedians roasting each other, he won. And then he came back the next time, but he had all these jokes written down on a clipboard. And they were kind of like, but this is meant to be all improv and stuff, and you've got all stuff written down. It just didn't make sense, so he got disqualified. It's kind of like, yeah, I think you've just broken all the rules in improv, and you've got everything written down. What was the one? Because there was a comedian in front of him, and I think he just typed. Then he said, "I typed your name into Google." And Google just went, yeah, no, me neither. Never heard of him. I don't know. I do like a good put down.
I like a sort of stage show. One of the things I used to go to quite regularly was be like talks, like people like Chris Bollington, or because I used to be into climbing big time, so kind of go to talk with Chris Bollington or Doug Scott or something like that, and I always really enjoyed those kind of evenings because you get they're often smaller venues as well, so it's a little bit more intimate, and you've got somebody sort of discussing things, and they'll often open things up to the floor and sort of get any questions, and they're often kind of just really good evenings. I think
it's kind of like the TED Talks as well,
Yes.
I fell asleep last week having a few beers, just fell asleep, and just YouTube was on, and it was a TED Talk. This guy who was homeless, and he was drugs in smoking meth, and he was brewing. He lived up in a mountain, and he was brewing his own wine, like in an old toilet or something like that. And it wasn't until he was like in his 30s that he taught himself how to read and write. And he managed to get into school. And by the time he was 60, he had a PhD, and he was teaching at this university and stuff. It was just like I was like, am I having some kind of weird, trippy mind dream or something, or is this actually? Because I was kind of a little bit, what?
The stuff like that happens when I did my degree. I think there were about 30 of us doing physics and the various options.
Was Einstein there as well when you did your degree?
Not quite. Yeah, he was still in high school. One of the there were a couple of guys on the course who were mature students. One of them was 60 something. He'd worked for BT his entire life. Didn't have a degree, but he worked for BT his entire life. And he just wanted to do something for himself. He didn't really get involved in the social side of things. He lived locally, so he just kind of went home. Nice guy, but just kept himself to himself. The other guy was in his mid-30s. And he was staying on campus and sort of get to know him a little bit. He'd left school at 14, because back in those days you could leave at that sort of age, and had become a brickie. Because he couldn't read. He didn't have any sort of skills as such. But then kind of early 20s, he was doing some sort of day release course. And somebody sort of said, one of the sort of tutors, is like, do you realise you're dyslexic? It's like, what does that mean? Well, it means you're going to struggle with reading and writing. And, have you thought of doing sort of using computers? Because computers were starting to become a bit of a thing. And he was like, oh, okay. So over sort of the period then of about sort of 10 years or so, he worked through kind of various courses and Open University, got himself to a point where he could start a full-time undergraduate degree in physics. He completed the degree and then did his PhD and became Dr. Drew. He's went from bricky to nuclear physicist.
Oh, so he wasn't a rapper doing headphones then?
Dr. Dre.
Yeah, different spelling of Drew. Yeah. Actually, yeah, Dr. Dre.
I did think that.
W off. Yeah, maybe he did. I never know what happened to him, but it's interesting how we kind of. I think particularly getting back into the kind of the older days of education, how many people were told, you could get into the whole kind of discussion about grammar schools, particularly of old, and even the modern day grammar school, about the students who don't make it are often then kind of go, well, I didn't make it, I failed. I'm 11 years old, I didn't pass the 11 plus, I failed in life. And for some students, that becomes a reality that lives with them for sometimes their entire life. And sometimes they get in that situation of, really bad things happen, and some get out, like the guy you described, Phil. The guy I was at university with, sometimes they don't, because they don't fit into that chronological system of assessment for education.
And it's like back in the day, there wasn't dyslexia. It was just kind of like you were just considered lazy or unfocused.
Exactly what I was going to say. Things like dyslexia, things like autism, things like ADHD, things that weren't, have been around for thousands of years, but were never given proper thought or diagnosis or treatment or anything like that. That are now, people in that sort of situation. More and more people are in that situation where they might be considered lazy or not trying or delinquents or whatever, that are now being recognized as actually having something treatable, and then giving them a new lease of life, giving them an opportunity to realize their full potential, sort of thing.
Well, this is like that guy that I mentioned. It's like he said he was just into his drugs and alcohol, and he was just lashing out, and I think he'd been to prison and stuff, and it was all just due to not having that kind of education at the beginning, being treated like an outcast and a wrong un all the time. So he just became it. Okay, if you believe I'm this, I'll. Yeah. If you think I'm this, I'll just be it. Yeah. Society were labeling him as just useless, and he just went and hid from everyone. And then he was kind of like, oh no, I think he bought himself a car, and he slept in his car while he was going to, university and stuff. Just slept in his car and doing his course. Like I read the other day, or I saw a little video, like James Cameron, the Oscar-winning Titanic and Avatar. He was a truck driver. Never made a film in his life. He just went into university and he was just photocopying all these books, and he just kind of got himself an education from just doing all this, and started doing movies. And he didn't go to film school or anything. He just decided to become a filmmaker and taught himself. And he was just a truck driver living with his kids and his wife in a suburban house.
Yeah, I forget which way around it is. I think it was either Alan Rickman or I want to say Sylvester Stallone. I don't mean Sylvester Stallone. Han Solo.
Harrison Ford. He was a carpenter.
Yeah. So he was a carpenter. Alan Rickman, then I believe, was a painter decorator, I think, or might have also been a carpenter. But again, they were just in the trades, and then it wasn't until later on in life they started, doing some.
Well, wasn't he working at George Lucas's house?
Harrison Ford. He was.
He was doing carpentry at George Lucas's house. I mean, there's just things in life that just seem to be serendipity, such shit like that. I mean, how Tom Selleck was meant to be Indiana Jones, but couldn't do it because of the Magnum that he was filming. So then they chose Harrison Ford. So this is one of his most iconic roles. Well, he's still doing it. I think they're filming the latest one now. I think he's just broke his hip or something.
Well, he's getting on a bit, and he's had a few accidents. So,
Well, he nearly got crushed on the one of the Star Wars films, didn't
He broke his leg. It came down.
he? Yeah, the hydraulics on the door failed.
He crashed his glider. I think he's like bionic. That fellow. He just gets up and just. It's kind of like
it's a wood
sticky tape. Like just matches and cuckoo spit. But it's like even Sylvester Stallone or something. You look at him and he's like 75. The dude's ripped. It's like, is it? I mean, he's held together by human growth hormones.
yeah,
I think. If he stopped taking them, if he stopped taking that stuff, he'd just crumble. Or he'd be like that guy who in the Last Crusade when he chose Paulie, when he just all his face melts off. It'd just be like him. yeah. But I mean, you shouldn't be like that in your mid-70s. I mean, the guy's got like abs at 70 odd. It's just like that's
what are abs?
insane. I've just got the one pack. That's what I'm working with. No, it's it's very strange. But some people just seem to go on forever, don't they? Like us tonight.
I was going to say, like,
we've just hit 3 hours, so we're still in second place in terms of the longest.
We have to go like 6 more minutes or something.
Well, I mean, should we talk about some attention stuff? I
was just going to say
all very
that
much
should be good
squirrel.
for a bit of time. Yeah. Phil, what's been grabbing your attention lately?
Like I say, I mentioned like Critical Role like earlier. I've been really getting into that. There's one YouTuber who's actually doing the first campaign at the moment, and he's just doing like the funny highlights and stuff. So rather than a 4-hour episode, and you've got 4 hours an episode, and there's like, I think there was 165 episodes in campaign 2. It's like, I can't get through all that. That's ridiculous.
We'll get there.
I was like, come on. Like I said, I've been watching a lot of the
Critical Role, and then we'll go for Joe Rogan.
Oh, I like his money. He's got a few bob. Like if Spotify just turned around and said, you've got complete creative control of your podcast. We're just going to pay you a shit ton of money, and we'll just give you the platform. Just do what you want. I'd be like, hells yeah. I mean, one thing. I mean, if it was, I mean, it is a pipe dream, and it's ridiculous because it'll never happen. But there's a lot of people involved in this, and if the show was able to produce enough revenue that the people involved didn't have to work and could be involved in the show and do whatever they wanted to, it's kind of like.
I'm down for that.
Yeah, I mean, if we just had the Dark Star compound or something, we'd just build our own little ISS,
like the Avengers Tower.
Yeah, exactly. And we've all got a level ourselves, and we've got jewelry making, woodwork, leatherwork. We're all in there.
R&D labs with the recording studio right at the top.
Yeah, and there's a revolving bar at the top. Free drinks. I know it's a pipe dream, but like one of my friends said, I am a dreamer at the end of the day, and I think the world does need dreamers because, there's not enough of us. But it's kind of like if someone said to Arnold Schwarzenegger, you'll never be the biggest movie star in the world. Give over. What are you talking about? It's having that belief in yourself. And it's like, just because it's not been done before. I mean, like Neil Armstrong. People like him.
Yeah.
Exactly. Barack Obama. You've got to have the belief in yourself. There's going to be people out there who will be so happy to knock you and to keep you down. What are you doing that for? Nah, you're dreaming too much. It's just like, actually, no, fuck you. I can dream as much as I want. It's not up to you to tell me what I can dream about and what I think could actually be possible. Because if you can dream it, then it could maybe happen. Exactly. And some things in life, you don't know where it's going to lead you. I didn't know joining the Field of Tools is going to lead me to Maker Central, to meeting Adam Savage. You don't know where life is going to take you.
That's usually a top tier Maker dream, isn't it? Is to to shake hands with Adam Savage. Sort of thing.
We shook hands. He had his arm around me, which I've not washed. Just the shoulder. It's a little funky, a bit fishy, like scratch and sniff kind of thing going on. But no, he just seems. I mean, he averts his gaze to you, and you have like 2 minutes, and that's his attention on you. And then as soon as you're done, move along. I'm just going to talk to the next person. It's. But it was. But the thing is, like I've emailed with the Craftsman a few times. I'd love him to be on the show. I think it would be fantastic. It's kind of like, this is why I'm asking, Jimmy DeResta if he'd like to be on. I did talk with Laura a little while ago, and she said, yeah. It's kind of like, there's no harm in asking these people to be on. SWAT team's not going to come flying through the windows and handcuff me to the ground and beat me to death just because I've asked a question to somebody. It's like, ask away. They might go, yeah. It's
so
like,
worst that could happen, they might say no. Oh, well.
Exactly. And I'm not going to lose any sleep over it. They go, well,
if
it's your
you say
loss.
no, you're in the same position you are now. They're not on the show.
Yeah.
But if they say
I mean,
yes, then
the thing is,
that's a dimension.
I think you've got to have like a positive attitude, like to go into the show, because, like I say, I make this alone by myself. It's an odd thing because I'm listening to humans' voices and stitching it all together, but I am just doing it by myself. At the end of the day, like I said about the composer or the sculptor or the artist, you're there doing your creation. But I've just got the belief like in it, like the guy from, like, what's his name, J.K. Rowling. She went to like every single book publisher, and they said no. But then somebody said yes, and now she's a billionaire with one of the biggest franchises that's happened in movie history. The guys that didn't sign the Rolling Stones or the Beatles, but then somebody did.
Peppered throughout history, isn't it? That kind of thing of people going, if I said yes.
Yeah. So, I mean, I find it, and I don't know who will listen to this up to this point, because they might have got, oh, fuck. I would love for this project to be, me in the center of it, kind of like pulling the strings, but there to be just a huge creative whirlwind, around it, with different people interacting in, different departments, talking, stuff like that. Or, if you're in it, and then, so it could be somebody does a 3D model. You're able to do the 3D printing, through that. I mean, the show's called Dark Star 1, the name of the ship, and I've not even designed the ship. It's just, and I have the ability to have lots of ideas of how the ship is, but I'm not capable of putting it down on a 2D sketch. But if somebody will, have the skill to do that, and I'll go, okay, this is what I think, and write it all down, and they'll go, bang, 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 here's 8 different designs. And I go, I love it. Bosh, there, that's fantastic. And it gets taken to the next person. They do a 3D model of it and rendering, and then there can be animation. I mean, the show could be a graphic novel, could be made into graphic novels.
Yeah.
And I've got ideas of I can draw, I just haven't done it for quite a long time. But I'd be able to give a lot of ideas for characters, and stuff. I would love for people just to not be afraid to have an idea for the show and come to me and go, do you mind if I do this? I'd knock yourself out. I can't pay you. I can't give anyone any like monetary, thing for it. But if you go, oh, I've got this, because somebody mentioned like people having their own theme music, like Star Wars, Ray's theme, Yoda's and stuff. People can have their own little tempo of music or something. Because I'd love to have its own music involved, like in the show and stuff like that. And one thing that grabbed my attention is he's called Ian Huberts, I think. He's a VFX artist, and his stuff is, he's just released his first episode. I think it's like 15 minutes long. It's taken them 3 years to make.
Is he a Blender effects artist?
Yeah. And it's very old it's very technological, but it's old technology. It's old new technology. So everything's beaten up, like Blade Runner, Star Wars, and stuff. So then instead of like a paddle ship, it's just got all these things attached to it, and it's very sci-fi and cyberpunky and stuff. Yeah. But the detail that's in that is better than any special effects that I've seen recently in any movie. It's ridiculous and stuff. And that's exactly like how I was seeing the spaceport in like episode 3. Just everything's held together by duct tape and, flashing neon lights, and there's brothels and there's bars and there's people fighting in the streets, but there's sinister stuff going on in the shadows, and there's, the black market where Skip meets Stitches and stuff. It's like, I just want all these layers like involved, like in the show. Just it isn't just what you're seeing or what you're hearing. There's all this stuff going on in the background. I'm trying to build a universe, a world, stuff, and fill it out with these characters and these. You've got the Dark Order, which I've not really spoken about much. They're like acolytes, that have been around for thousands of years. And so they could be. I thought about doing, like in Starship Troopers, they always did like these kind of satirical little adverts, like in the movies, like Paul Verhoeven does, like in RoboCop, and it would be like, a training video for the Dark Order and stuff, but satirical and a bit funny, I did it a little bit. I did it a little bit like with episode 3 at the beginning. Is like, are you doing your part? Yeah. No. It's the beginning when you see the thing and all the fire like comes off it at the beginning of it, and then to do like a disclaimer, saying that if you don't kill 300 innocents in the first month, you'll be burned in the pits of something or other. John did that. John, who plays Skip, like did the voice for that and stuff. So I'm just trying to build this world, and that's why I was like doing the fake adverts, and I spoke with the brothers Make. And I thought they could actually play like a duo of like newscasters. So do like these kind of really small 2-minute news kind of little snippets, and they talk about certain things that's going on in the dark world, dark universe and stuff. But they could, maybe play the same characters that they were like in episode 3. I just called them Johnny and Johnny. That's what we're called, Johnny and Johnny.
Well, they've already been likened to Ant and Dec by the guys at the Make Your Own Way podcast. It's so fitting because they're such a good double act anyway.
Well, the one that got me, that actually got me, the one that kind of like inspired me was the 2-headed announcer in the pod race in episode 1, Star Wars. That kind of really cheesy, over the voice kind of sportscaster kind of thing. They nailed it, and I thought they'd be quite good newscasters. Yeah, but then that's another character, just this one creature, just with 2 heads. They've got 2 similar but different personalities and stuff. It's, I'd find it.
It's Beeble Brooks, isn't it?
Yeah. What's his name? Sam. I played him.
Yeah.
You know what I mean, though. He played him so well.
In Rockwell. The film. Sam Rockwell, yeah.
He played him amazingly, like in the film. But I just find there's just so much scope for it that if somebody just got like an idea, like, but I'm also not very good at marketing and promotion of the show. So like Reg was saying, maybe snippets to go on TikTok, stuff like that. It's free, but it's kind of like, I think I'm too close to it. I'm not. So when I used to do like these fabric banners and stuff, I'd be constantly, these banners would be up on a wall, meters and meters away from customers and stuff, but I'd be inches away getting the perfect, curves on an S or a C, and I need to just that one last pass because it needs to be perfect. But it doesn't need to be perfect. It just needs to be good enough to go up on a wall that people see meters away. And I am very like that with the show. I'm very close to it, so that's why I like reading like the reviews. There's only 3 up there, but it's nice to read them. Go, oh, that's what somebody's thinking about it. Okay, but but I need to get that feedback because, it's like a comedian that goes out, when they do an hour-long special on a show, they've been honing that for months and months and months, so it's the perfect hour. They need to know which joke hits, because I don't want to be thinking of a bit of a story which I think's hilarious, and people are like, it's a bit naff. Why is he going with this? So there's
always that niche there, isn't there? There's always, there's always someone who's going to be like you. In a world with 7 billion people in it, there's. I know, granted, not every single one of those is going to listen to the podcast, but
well, they should.
Yeah,
they should. That would be fantastic for your view numbers. But
be all right. Be all right.
The fact that not everything appeals to everyone.
Yeah.
And the best thing you can do is just be true to yourself.
Exactly.
Like you said, don't pander to the audience, because the audience doesn't really matter. It's only going to be the vocal minority that you'll hear any negativity from anyway.
Generally, you hear back from the people who want to say really shitty things about stuff. Exactly, you get your little keyboard warriors, and there was talking about hello again, Adam Savage, and he was at a convention. Excuse me, convention last weekend, and he's behind the plexiglass and he's masked up and stuff, and he's just pictures of all these people coming to him and giving him presents, and I just I think it was on the tested Instagram, and I just put, this is amazing to see. There's so many things to love about this picture, because there was a young kid giving Adam some stuff, and Adam, you could tell, was elated, and I just put, this warms my heart just seeing this. And then somebody answers, no. You just put, no. You've got it completely wrong. These are just nobodies who are wearing costumes that Adam doesn't care about. He's a professional. I was like, you don't know what he's saying. You just want to say something negative. Adam Savage goes to these conventions. Well, he's getting paid, obviously, but he loves the interaction. But he was going to them
before he was getting paid to go. And he goes incognito because he wants to be there and see it and enjoy it. And
well, he did it today at Silicon Valley. He was the Mark I Iron Man walking around in his suit, and he loves it. He loves the interaction.
Exactly. Yeah.
And then this person just wanted to say something negative to the comment I put, because they're maybe having a bad day, or they're just a knobhead, who just like to shit from a great height on people. He's one of those people that are just like, if you were walking past with a pair of chips, he just kind of
stop knocking at your hands.
Yeah. The kind of person that you'd love to uppercut onto like a big, like if there's a big cake or a big bowl of punch, just an uppercut right into that. You're just like, oh, you're having a bad day, but there's no need. Yeah, I mean, I find social media can be amazing. I find Instagram mostly positive. I find Twitter just vile, vacuous, just awfulness when you're just reading stuff, and people get upset because your post goes, I had a lovely bacon sandwich this afternoon, then somebody will say something really shitty, then the original person gets really upset. It's kind of like, what do you expect? I just find it really odd. Like you say, it's people want validation just for really weird stuff.
Yeah.
Just for being, there was, I know, unfortunately he's passed away now, Sean Locke, a few weeks ago, and he was on an 8 Hour Cats episode, and they were talking about Katie Price, Jordan, and someone said, "Oh, leave her alone. She's a great mum." And they went, "Well, that's just the bare minimum. You're meant to be a good mum if you've got kids." So
prerequisite,
yeah. You're meant to be, if you have children, to be the best mum or father that you can be. But don't leave her alone. She's a great mum. Yeah, but she's just a vacuous, horrible person, fame hungry. Just yeah. And it's just kind of like, I liked him because he just didn't pull any punches. It's kind of like, I'm not a big fan of his stand-up, but Ricky Gervais, he understands just how ridiculous being famous is. And there's all those, Golden Globes, when he's just ripping people a new one. Because he understands just how fickle it all is, and just how so far up their own arse they all are. And he's like, I don't give a fuck. Just come up and get your reward and piss off. And I love that.
Well, I remember Ricky Gervais being on like the the 11 o'clock show back 20 years ago.
Wasn't Borat on that as well? Oh no,
Yeah,
Alan Partridge was on it, wasn't he?
No, it was Ali G back in the day.
Ali G.
It's
I love
still
Ali.
Sacha Baron Cohen who did Borat and Ali G, but
Ali
that
G,
was their roots. You know, it was Ian Lee and Daisy Donovan on a show called the 11 o'clock show that was on at 10:30 at night, or 25 past 10 or something like that. You know, and it was Ricky Gervais was like the idiot interviewer going round. You know, you had Ali G doing his idiotic interviews and Ricky Gervais doing his, like a news reporter, Jonathan Pye-esque kind of, you know, satirical silliness. And then he's just all of a sudden become this like massive thing. That's, yeah. I mean, I don't get him, but.
I mean, I like his way of like, okay, we've done a good thing. We've made The Office. We're not going to just keep beating this dead horse. We're going to do 2 series, then that's it. We're done. And then we're going to go to, what's the other one that he did? Extras. And then we're done. He's either run out of ideas or he just wants to leave it, you know, like that. So I kind of like that, how he's just not milking it. You know, he likes all these different projects like Derek, and what's the really sad one that he's just done? When his wife just died of cancer or something.
Nice.
Jesus Christ! I think I watched all 2 series over one weekend. I was in pieces. but it's funny. Like the guy, you know, the guy that's on 8 out of 10 Cats, Joe Wilkinson.
Yeah.
He's just got the big beard and stuff. He plays a postman. So there's an episode where there's a knock on the door, and he's like, Joe Wilkinson's like, "Can I use your toilet?" And he's like, "Yeah, sure, no props." And he's gone for like ages. And he goes upstairs, and you're thinking, he's having a poo. He's having a poo. And he goes up, and he's in the bath. He's out of the bath. Just laid in the bath. Like, what's up? And he gets really annoyed at Ricky Gervais because he's annoyed at him. But I was thinking, he's gone up for a poo, hasn't he? And then when he was just laid in he's having a big bubble bath. I was like, oh, that is genius. I love that.
I mean, that probably was unscripted anyway. That's probably just what Joe Wilkinson did.
I mean, the stuff that he's done, like on 8 out of 10 Cats, when he had a Hello Kitty rucksack and he had a big Ziploc bag full of Scotch eggs. Yeah. And he's going, there's 17 Scotch eggs in that. And they're like, do you want to know why there's 17 Scotch eggs? And he's like, yeah, it's as many as I can fit in. That's it.
Like, have you seen him on Taskmaster, where they had to impress this bloke from he was a mayor of somewhere, you know, a relatively unimportant political type person, but still someone of status that they wouldn't have normally, you know, been near, and they just had to impress this person. And they all, you know, the 5 contestants all went off and did various things, you know, singing to him or dancing or writing poetry or whatever. And Joe Wilkinson just buggered off, came back with a bag full of stuff from the local corner shop. And it was like 37 Calippo lolly ices and a 4-pack of strong lager. And then he went, oh, and I've got like 30 quid in my wallet. Have that as well. And that was his attempt to impress this politician.
Just to bribe him. I mean, I love, like, you know, there's things that just get turned on the head. Like Ali G, when he's talking to this quite renowned scientist, and he's like, how loud was the Big Bang? And he's going, it's inconceivable. Is it as loud as my mate Kenwood in his car? Because that is like proper loud. And he's like, I don't think you're understanding just how loud he's going. He's got like 2 subwoofers like in the boot. It's like proper loud, man. And this scientist is getting really annoyed with him, but it's hilarious. You know, it's kind of like
that's the thing. Is like, because Sacha Baron Cohen is a very, very, very intelligent man.
Yeah, and fearless.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's that political statement of doing something that is so absurd and so far beyond what you would expect someone to do that then it is where the humor is in it.
It's kind of like Dennis Pennis as well. He was doing the same thing. You know, but he was a bit more cutting, like interview with Steve Martin, and he says, when did you first realize that you weren't funny anymore and stuff? It was like, whoa, Jesus, man alive.
It's the difference between humor and just being a dick then, isn't it?
Yeah, well, he was on that razor edge of you're going to get punched one of these days. And I think he was quite close to it. But I mean, I just love the, you know, again, it's kind of like sometimes like with that scientist, very pompous, you know, stuff. And
breaking down barriers, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's kind of like, it's not trying to humble them or it's not trying to humiliate them, but it's just kind of, you just realize, okay, you're good in your field and stuff, but you might just be a little bit too, a little bit too up your own backside, a little bit, and he kind of just brings them down a little peg or two.
Yeah,
because he's just, he's just a very clever man. It seems to have disappeared a little bit, really.
While we're sort of working our way through stuff, Andy, what's been grabbing your attention, mate?
My attention? Putting up a fence panel. I've replaced. Well, I've got a number of fence panels to replace. So I did the first one yesterday.
Regretting it yet?
It should have been an easy job. It turned into a nightmare job because there was 6 inches of concrete where I wasn't expecting it. So it'll take me a couple of days to recover from that one. What else have I been doing? Still been trying to tidy. Put up a network putting cabling in. It took me all day on Friday to get cable from there. Actually, there, up there, just out of view, to kind of there, because there's a very small hole which there was just enough space to get a cable through, but it kept getting snagged, and it I lent a stiff wire and tried to get wire on there, and it was a pain. And yeah, again, awkward positions and things like that. Today, what grabbed my attention? John Harvey posted a link to a channel that I'd not seen before. Isabel Usman.
Surely there isn't a channel on the internet that you haven't seen.
Oh, there are plenty. there are so many being produced. It's hard to keep up. Amazing bit of work. She's an artist and predominantly takes things like books and draws on a page, but then we'll cut some of that page out and then we'll do a bit on the page behind. It ends up with almost like a three-dimensional piece of art that's been created through the book. So I shall be delving into those a bit more. And the other one earlier this week, which really caught my eye, there's a channel called Superfast Matt. American. Well, I think it might possibly be British, but he's kind of got that. He's based in America. He's kind of got a almost European sort of British kind of voice, but he could just be kind of classy American.
Is he any relation to Uncle Travelling Matt from the Prequels?
No, Matt, not Max.
Matt.
And he's currently trying to. Not trying to. He is installing Tesla running gear into a Mark II Jaguar. So it's something like a 1930s or 1940s, 1950s. I'm not sure the exact era.
Weirdly enough, I became familiar with this earlier this evening, probably about 4.5 hours ago, as it was explained to me in another previous chat by Mr. Multi-Makeface. Had been talking about the very same video.
Yeah, he's an interesting chap. I like how he. I'm not serious. I like cars, but I'm not seriously into cars. But I kind of like how he explains his problem solving. Yeah, it's like we're talking about. Just mentioned a bit earlier. Sort of Makers about creativity and problem solving, and he's using very creative processes to kind of solve problems, because he's getting an awful lot of problems because that chassis was not designed for electric motor. So it's a fascinating build. It's a series, so it's certainly one I'd recommend. Jamie, what about you?
Well, I've been kind of digging along on my reach from my prop there, but I found it via Jim off of Wave Cycles, again, sort of fellow kind of nerd into stuff. But in chatting with him, he was giving me a brilliant idea on my sort of project I discussed last week about trying to pipe in the hot waste air out of one of my servers to try and dry out some filament. And he was telling me about a product that is squeaking away on the mic there, but a product that is for exhaust pipe design.
Yep.
And it is modular pieces, different bend sizes and radiuses and stuff. But to be able to mock up something like an exhaust pipe with nominal sizing, to then be able to 3D print the part, or the way he'd seen it originally was to buy this kit of parts to be able to mock something up with correct bends and shapes and everything in plastic first, before you then start doing it in steel. And I found a user, Xeon Designs on Thingiverse, who's done several sizes of the same thing that you can 3D print, and then they just snap together and allow you to make, bends and everything in pipe. So I've been playing around with that over this week. In terms of YouTube-wise, I've actually been talking about, fantastic couples interactions and reaction videos as well. There's a couple I've been following for years and years and years on YouTube who do taste tests. And I don't watch their other countries' taste tests, but I love their British foods, British snacks.
Yeah, you've told me about them. Yeah.
And it's an Aussie couple, Cheeky Tan. And I mean, I've been watching it since probably 2015 or something like that. But in recent years, she's brought her husband on, and they just got this fantastic. They're a middle-aged couple from Australia, but they've got such fantastic energy together. They're still head over heels, madly in love, constantly just jibes at each other, and loads of laughs and giggles. It's just really, really fun energy, and they just snack on stuff like kids, and then giggle and take the piss out of each other. And it's just really good, feel good kind of, it's just like, handing your mates a snack that they've never tried and just go, try this. It's that kind of like feel good sort of, and vicariously eating stuff that I'm probably never going to get around to eating. So that kind of scratches that itch.
That's why I like Evan and Caitlin. Because, I mean, I not necessarily will like everything that they make, but it's the dynamic between them two. You can tell that they're just besotted by one another. They find, like, Evan just finds himself hilarious, and he's just like, she's the super organized, everything's got to be in a certain way, and he's just like...
he's the engineer.
Yeah, and he just loves fire and blowing stuff up or whatever, and it's just like, I just love, like, the dynamic between them two, the energy that they bring.
They're big kids living their best life.
Yeah, I mean, I was just like messaging them before Maker Central 2, are you coming over? And they're like, we're not really sure. And I was like, I think I'd love to meet them. And then when I saw, I've forgotten his name again, Joe's video, I was like, I can't believe that they was like stood behind me at Maker Central 1, because I just had no idea who they were at that time. I think they were still small like YouTubers at that time. Now they've hit like 100, like 1 million subscribers. Like that was one thing I noticed this week. Brett hitting 30,000 subscribers on YouTube. That's a big deal. I mean, there's sometimes when you just see a creator. I've got a lot of time for Brett. I think just super creative. I've got still messaged on my thing there that he sent me when I joined the crew and stuff. Nice message from Maker Central. And it's just one of those things where you're just bamboozled that he's just not bigger.
Yeah, definitely.
He just like, he makes so much stuff, and there's so much skill involved in the things that he makes. And I think he's trying to change things up a little bit, because he's got the home renovation channel and stuff now. Because I think he's probably just seeing how like Modern Builds, or his name is that guy, because they seem to be doing like quite well when he's done like his bus renovation and stuff. So I mean, there's a huge, I think one of Jesse's videos with the poop house, when they were just doing a walk around, it's like over 1 million views or something. Like it's a big market, and obviously he's just bought I've got a lot of time for Brett. and very pleased that he hit that milestone.
It's well deserved, definitely.
Yeah, I mean, you see like Jimmy, and he's still got like 1.8 million, but like, why haven't you got like 10, 15, 20 million subscribers? It's crazy what people. It's attention span, and it like Colin Firth's like usually 8 minutes long or something. You're in, you're out. Here's some stuff I made. This thing's just taken me 3 months to build, but I'm going to do an 8-minute video because it's going to be me like blowing shit up and fireworks, and people want short content, in and out. TikTok, 15 seconds, bosh.
He says 3.5 hours into a podcast.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's probably good to say that this end, not the other end of it.
I think people probably knew this was going to be a long one.
Oh, yeah. I said earlier on. I said it's either going to be a half an hour wrap up and done, or we'll still be here this time tomorrow.
Well, the thing is, we're all kind of like interested in just a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
And we've all got the look, a squirrel kind of disorder.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there was something that Jimmy said on a live stream. He says, as a maker and someone that might have trouble concentrating, it's finding out how your brain works. At the end of the day, we are who we are, but we can't control how our brain works. We just work with it. So it's finding out what's the best for it. So for him, it's like having 7 projects on the go, because I get bored like super easy with stuff, and that's just ADD stuff. I just lose interest. I'm not interested anymore. I was designing dice trays for like 2 weeks and did all these things, and I was doing a lovely like rosewood, and I was like obsessed with dice and rosewoods, and then I made it, and then I couldn't give a shit about it after I'd done it. I was like, move on. What's the next thing? But I learned how to do the process. I learned how to use the software. I did the CNC and stuff. Worked out how to work nicely with olive wood, and then I was like, yeah, I'm not interested in that anymore. Let's go on to something else.
Well, I think that's the key to life, isn't it? Is just know thyself.
Yeah, I think, and that's what people struggle with. I think most of the time, it's actually finding that happy center of yourself. Like I don't know, like The Rock, for example. He's happy on 4 hours sleep a night, being in the gym at 3 o'clock in the morning, sending inspirational quotes out all over the internet, and working like the hardest man, like in show business. That makes him happy, and very rich. But it makes him happy. That's what he wants to do. If you're happy just, I don't know, gardening or putting shaving foam in resin or whatever the hell that you want to do, if that makes you happy, then do it. Within reason. That's the thing.
Yeah.
There's
make a big sci-fi podcast with a lot of your mates.
Oh, yeah, exactly. It's just one of those things. You go, why not try it? Why not give it a go? It's either going to work out, or I'm going to learn from it, and I can maybe make something better. It's now giving me the ideas, just thinking, actually, well, it's not getting crazy numbers, but it might do if you just stick with it. But it's also just giving me the enthusiasm for maybe other projects, as well. And, if somebody was maybe to, like, I don't know, I was thinking of putting myself out there to say if people needed videos editing. There's going to be people who I'd love to be able to have content. I just don't have the time. I'll go, well, I can edit.
That's a damn good skill to offer, because I know that's something I'd never want to do. There's no chance I'd want to sit there for hours on end.
People do it. If you look at Bob Claggett, he's got a team of people now. Yeah, he doesn't do any editing anymore unless he really has to.
No.
He hands that off. He's got a guy that's his job.
Yeah.
Hands that off.
Well, there's a prime example of something taken off. He's got this business model for his channel. He knows how he wants to present it, and now he's employing. I think his wife is part-time because she's like doing all the merchandise and stuff and sending it out. Yeah. And I think there's maybe 3 other people that he's employing. it's a proper business because they're selling the plans and the merchandise, and he's getting the sponsorship and stuff like that. When someone turns around and says to me, "Oh, they're just sold out," it's like, no, they haven't sold out at all. They're just doing well for themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
This is what they want to do. This isn't your idea. This is theirs.
They're not standing still.
All they've done
forwards.
is they've changed their target demographic. You are no longer their target demographic.
Yeah. If you don't like it, don't watch it. Yeah,
absolutely.
That's just one of those things. It's like, I know this is going to sound really a flippant thing to say, but if there's something that you're not happy with in your life, try and change it. When I've worked with chefs, I fucking hate my job. I hate it. Leave. Go get another one. Go find a job that makes you happy. It sounds really awful, but if you might be in a relationship that's not working. If you're not married, or kids or whatever, you're not obliged to stay with anybody that you're with. If you're unhappy. My neighbours today sounded like they were going to fire bazookas at one another, screaming, and the children. There's 5. I live in a 2-bedroom flat by myself, and there's 5 of them in there, and they must be just ready to pop. If there's things that you're not happy with, try and change it. But people are just very happy just to stay in that, status quo and to rather just moan about it. Imagine all the energy that when you pissing and moaning, if you put all that energy into something else. You're the only person, like I said, you can only control your thoughts or your actions. So if there's something you're unhappy with, you have to do something about it.
Yeah.
And when I said I was in a dark place like years ago, I had to choose to get out of there. I had to choose to not feel the way that I was feeling at that time, and to be able to try and change how I thought about the world and my place in it. And I think you're never gonna be totally happy with your place in the world. There's always going to be something to have a bit of, we're British, we do like a moan anyway.
It's our God-given right, God damn it.
Exactly.
Weather.
Yeah, exactly. But there's some people you meet, and it's like, I've had a friend like in the last few years that we don't talk anymore because it's just all negativity. Nothing's right, nothing's ever right. Why, woe is to me and stuff. And it's like, sometimes it's just kind of like, oh, really?
And some of that is fed by the media, I think. It's my dad, when he was alive, he was often kind of quite negative about things. And I swear it was down to the fact that he read the Daily Mail.
I'll do it.
It's a horrid rag. And yeah, I was convinced that if he just didn't have that, if he'd read something else, if he got his news from a different source, he'd probably been a bit happier.
I think negativity breeds negativity.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And it's the other way around, positive.
And certain aspects of the media love it. Yeah,
oh my God,
to have a story about.
It sells, doesn't it?
Yeah.
That's what we were saying like earlier. Somebody would rather pick up a phone and record somebody who's fallen over than go and help them. Because there's going to be people out there who, it is funny seeing like a fat kid fall over or something. That's, quite amusing. Others don't like hurt himself or something, or a guy get a football kick in the nuts or something. But if he was like in a comedy show, not seeing actually somebody being like, really hurt. But it is that kind of, people do like us to be in that bubble of like negativity and just like Twitter and stuff,
isn't it? It's seeing someone who's in a worse situation than you gives you that little bit of a dopamine hit of saying, oh, maybe my life isn't that bad. Maybe the things I'm upset about, or worried about, or frustrated over aren't quite as bad as that person is right in this moment. That's not me in that crap situation.
It's like watching EastEnders. I don't, but if you ever feel really like, oh, my life's shit, you watch that and go, actually, my life's actually pretty good.
Whenever I'm feeling like that, I just go to Asda.
Just listen. Yeah.
Just have a walk around. It's great. That would be the equivalent of going to Walmart in the US. Then it's just the stab at the low hanging fruit there.
I remember being in Asda once, and I was just like looking at some magazines or something, and this young girl's like, "Mummy, where are we? It's like, we're in Asda, darling. It's like, this place is magical. I was like, wow, Uni's got a Waitrose or something. That shit's going to blow your mind if you think Asda's great. Jesus.
It's a perspective, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, but the thing is, there's people in this world that are like so happy with hardly anything. They talked about one of the smelliest men in the world who lives in a cave like in Afghanistan or something, and he eats roadkill and he's never washed in like 40 years. He's probably happy as hell, that guy. He's probably got no problems.
Certainly
you don't want to be down
with someone in the bowels of London working 18-hour days, 6-figure salary, no life, no chance to breathe.
I mean, this thing is, it's kind of like consumerism. It's like we buy stuff and then we make stuff, and it's just like we're just this battery that, this worker bee that they think that we are. But it's like, you can carve out happiness in life. It might be a plant box. You might be in some high rise and you might be growing some herbs or something like that. It just, put these little things in your life that give you just a little bit of spark of positivity or something. I mean, I've said before, it's like, I'm not overly a people's person, but I do like people. I love people, but most of the time it's like, I just get disappointed by people's actions and stuff. I'm very like eager to be getting on with stuff, and then someone's like taking the time, then they give me shit because I'm being overbearing or something. It's like, no, I just want to get shit done. I just want it because I'm enthusiastic about it. But now I'm waiting on you. I don't mean like the podcast. I'm not talking about the podcast because that sounds like I'm going to go at people, but I'm not. I'm just like, I think people should just let other people just be themselves. It's just when you meet somebody and they just don't fit in your ideal of how a friend should be or something. There's people in the maker community that I talk with quite a lot. There's people who are not that interested being in contact with me, and that's fine, because why should that bother me?
You can't please all the people all the time, can you?
Exactly. I mean, if somebody wants to contact me, and like the other day, there was an accidental pocket call by Red, so it popped up on the Dark Star 1 chat, and I thought it was just Red, and I was like talking, it's thinking it was a phone call, then it was a video phone call. All right, Grandad, and then Dan Vandals and Berkey picked it up, so we were just chatting just for a bit, and that was great. Just a nice little chat just for 5-10 minutes. It's like, but I think that's what the maker community is. Very easy to reach out, and that's why Red does Texting Tuesday, because you never know, reaching out to somebody who might just make the day. They might be having a bit of an off one.
Absolutely. Well, if people wanted to reach out to you, Phil, where's the best place that they could do so?
Nice segue there, Jamie. That was smooth, wasn't it?
I think I just usurped Andy in that one as well. He's just about to jump in there.
Yeah.
So there's kind of two main ones. I've got the Dark Star 1 crew Instagram, and then there's just kind of like my normal Instagram, just Dark Star Studio. I am on Twitter, but I don't really go on that, to be honest. And then there's YouTube. I'm thinking, this is what I would like people just to jump in and give me ideas, because it isn't how my brain works. Maybe start a Discord or something that people could just jump on and we have a bit of a chat, about something. But, just because I'm so involved in the show, people might just be happy just to listen to it. That's all they want. They just want to listen to it, not get involved. I've asked people to be in the show and some have just gone, no, I'm just happy just to listen. And that's fine, But,
so the show is available on YouTube and is available on the major podcast platforms.
Yep. Yeah, it's on Google and iTunes and Spotify, Podchaser or Podcaster or everything. It's on all of them. I kind of have it on on SoundCloud. And then I kind of post it to that, and then it goes all to the other ones.
It's definitely well worth a listen.
Thank you.
Yes.
I appreciate that. Yeah, it's nice to hear that.
I would recommend it.
So
And listen
I'm
to
not just saying that
listen to
because
the
I'm in
adverts
it,
as well. Listen to the
Yes.
adverts as well.
the full universe of the world building. I think is such a wonderful thing that you're doing with it.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like creating the thing like the adverts. How two of them were just sent to me. I didn't ask or expect them, and then they just came and they were great. And it's kind of like, okay, what can you do with that? And it's kind of like, nice, because that sparks my interest and that keeps me interested. You know, the Crest Ridge one and stuff, and I put like a little Western spin on it and stuff.
Mm.
Or the Revivitrol one and I gave it kind of a 1950s kind of shopping channel kind of little vibe and stuff. So that keeps me, what can I do with this? You know, like a little mad scientist, you know, kind of thing. And I love that. And if anybody wants to do that, you know, just get in contact and go, I've got this idea, and just let people's freak flag fly, man.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And it goes like with anything, you know. I'm not going to bite your head off just because you've got an idea for the show. I might just kind of be very British and go, thank you very much. And file that under bin. No. But I mean, there's going to be so many ideas that people could have that I would never have, and people more than welcome. You know, I'm not just this thing that you can't contact. You know, I'd love for to be more
creative collaboration, isn't it?
Exactly. You know, I'm the one putting it together, but I'd love for people to have ideas for the show and come up with different things. You know, that's why I'm talking to people about their backstories and stuff. I want people to be involved, you know, we're saying with the characters and stuff. Mm-hmm. And I'd like the, you know, podcast just to, as long as people want to be involved in it, I'll make it as long as I can, really. As long as it's enjoyable for everyone involved.
Well, talking of long podcasts.
Yes.
Yeah, and I am busting for a pee.
Yeah, I was going to say the same here.
Yeah, and Jamie's got work in the morning. No, it's bank holiday tomorrow, isn't it?
Bank holiday.
Yeah.
Mm. And I've only had one beer.
Definitely.
Have I only had one beer? That's crazy.
I've had a couple of large whiskies. And I snuck in some dried apricots as well, just because I knew we were going to be here for a while. So.
Roughage. Why not?
Right, on that note, let's say goodbye. And you will see, I think, next week we've got Claire Burgess, if I remember correctly, from Claire's Crafty Corner. So that should be a good chat. And I suspect we'll be a bit shorter because schools will be back. And I'll certainly have to get up earlier next week, Monday.
I think Phil's record is going to stand for a long while.
Or if it gets broken, I'll just have to come back on.
If anyone's going to break it, it's going to be you next time.
We'll do like a 24-hour telethon.
We'll just keep changing the hosts out to refresh us.
It's just me on an IV.
Maybe Makers Central. We'll have to see if we can run super long at Makers Central.
From the Friday night to Sunday morning.
Yeah.
That could be quite.
On that note, I can end this at any time because I'm the guy with the button. So I think I shall. I shall say good night.
Good night, all.
Good night from him.
I will hit the end broadcast. Thank you for
good
listening.
Night, chaps.
If anyone has got this far.
Good night, all. Yeah.
Yes. Good night, chaps. Good to talk to you.